ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 93 of McRae Live. The date today is Thursday, August the 20th, 2020. It's 11:05 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. And on the show today, I have a very special guest. Some Black Christmas alum here, folks. The original Black Christmas from 1974. That's right. I welcome the one, the only Lynne Griffin to the show, who played Clare in the original Black Christmas. For some reason, when I switched cameras here to see you come up on the screen, I had this image of you with a bag over your head. But thank goodness you don't have the bag over your head today.
Well, I can if you would like it. I do have one standing by.
I remember when we talked on the phone the other day,
Hi, Dave. Yes.
Yes. Hello. Good morning. How are you? Besides the fact that we discovered that we have the same agent, which is really cool.
Right.
You told me that, I'm just picturing this. You told me that, when you go to conventions and things like that, if you're like, things are getting a little slow around my table, I just whip that bag out, put it on my head and sit there with my mouth open. And people know instantly who you are.
That's right. That's right. If they don't recognize me before, then they do afterwards.
Right. Exactly.
But I do know that at most conventions, as I was telling you, there's a St. John's ambulance. So if anything happens, but I am smart enough to take it off before too long.
Right.
In fact, probably my husband will go and get me my bag out of my little convention case. And, if you're really, really good and really nice to me, I might put it on later.
Maybe you should start selling Lynne Griffin exclusive clear plastic bags.
Well, let me tell you, I don't use dry cleaners anymore. Everything has to be hand washable for me. No dry cleaning.
Right. Exactly. Of course. Naturally. Okay. Before we dive into Black Christmas, because I definitely know people want to know all about that for sure, including myself. I mean, I there's probably there's definitely a lot of things I don't know, of course, because I wasn't there. It was 5 years before I was born. So 5 years? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 years.
Wow.
Let me see. So let's go back. I mean, and what were you doing? I mean, you were pursuing a career in acting, of course, but what was going on in your life before Black Christmas? Where were you? How did you get started in the entertainment industry? Because I believe you started here in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken. So what got you into this biz?
Well, my father was a high fashion photographer who actually won the Canadian Photographer of the Year in 1966. So he used me as a child model, even like in diapers. And in fact, I was on the cover of my grade 4 speller, which is a photograph that my father had taken.
That's so cool.
Which was hugely embarrassing, as people would like to draw, horns and a pitchfork on the front of their speller. They'd get in trouble and I would just be humiliated. But I did a lot of catalog modeling. I did a lot of ads for my father. My mother, when my father passed away, my mother became a talent agent and was a talent agent for years and years and years, which now is run by my sister, Kathy. Which is called KG Talent in Toronto.
I know who they are,
yeah. And so they always represented me. I mean, I kind of floated around because I lived in LA for 12 years, but I floated around with different agents. But my sister is now once again my agent. And I guess, the funny thing is, I mean, when I was growing up, I kind of moved from from modeling into television commercials. And then I did a magazine show for the CBC for 5 years called Drop In. And then I started getting dramatic parts, which is what I really wanted to do. And I started, my first stage play was with my mother. She played the maid in a play called Boeing, and I played the French airline hostess.
Very cool. What year would this have been about?
Oh, uh,
Late 60s, I guess.
yeah. Yeah, it was with, for anyone who's out there who cares, we did it at the Richmond Hill
They
Curtain
all
Club.
care.
Come on, let's hear it for Richmond Hill.
Richmond. For those of you that don't know, Richmond Hill is a suburb, I guess,
Yes,
of Toronto.
yes.
So
So the Curtain Club is not the major theater in Toronto, just so we get that straight.
right.
But I mean, right before Black Christmas, I was actually working at Stratford. So I was like a Stratford actress. That's what I was doing. I wasn't really doing film. I was
Right.
pursuing my career as a thespian.
Amazing. Amazing. I mean, and did you have any aspirations to make the transition from stage to screen at all?
No, and in fact, I never have. I've done everything my whole career, including radio and animation, voiceovers. So and commercials. I mean, I still do commercials,
Right.
and they help pay the rent. So it's a broad spectrum, and in this country, you don't always get the choice of the wonderful films that you would like to be a part of, and you make your living however you can. And so
That's right.
I'm always open to everything. I've been doing a lot of indie films lately,
Yes.
indie horror films.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll all get released.
Well, I saw on your IMDb page, I was just on it today, and I see you have one, the very first one, your most recent one is called Spider Mama. I love it. Are you able, have you signed an NDA, or are you able to tell us a little bit about Spider Mama?
Certainly. Like if you, I mean, if you're familiar with Spider-Man.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I see that you're in a movie called Spider Mama, but then the
Yeah.
real kicker is that you're cast as Spider Mama.
That's
So I mean,
right.
I gotta know about this.
So I've been bitten by, what do you call it? A radioactive spider,
Mm,
just like in Spider-Man, in the old age home that I'm living in,
that's so good.
which of course gives me special powers.
Of course.
And I'm able to hide, so I don't want to get my daily dose of medicine. So I can literally hide from the nurses on the ceiling and climb down the side of the building.
Naturally.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have all the powers of Spider-Man in imagine Spider-Man as me, as Spider-Mama.
Are you
Yeah.
are you
I
are
thought
you
it
in
was
the
a great
tights?
idea.
Are you in the tights at all, or?
No. I'm just I'm
Oh,
just
you're
a
just,
sweet little old lady,
oh,
and
okay. Okay.
yeah,
I
but
thought maybe you
I
had an
did
outfit.
do some pretty good stunts.
I love it. I love it. And this is a short film, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, right? Right.
Yes. Yeah.
I love it. I think that's fun. I think
It's
that's
very
fun.
fun.
I listened to, because obviously, when I found out we had the same voiceover agent, I went and listened to your demo, and I thought it was great. I thought it was
Oh,
great.
thanks.
Yeah, it was really good.
I should listen to yours.
Yeah, well,
We can give each other pointers.
yes, just toss it back and forth, and it'd be great. No, it was good. It was good. It definitely is. I can certainly see what you would be cast for, and you'd be great at it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, I
it's
think
great.
it's a bit, it leans towards the, sweet granny or nanny or that kind of thing. When I particularly like to do crazy dialects, which she didn't want me to do, or
On a commercial
characters.
demo, no, yeah.
No, not on a commercial demo, but I do have some crazy voices in my back pocket.
I have no trouble believing that for some reason.
Yeah.
No, Jude is great. She's amazing. I
Hey,
actually,
dude.
yes, that's right. Jude Foster over at Foster Talent is who
Yeah.
we're talking about, and she's great. I just think she's adorable, and I actually we were trying to set up a meeting, but then of course the whole COVID thing happened. So hopefully I'll be able to see her again very soon. But so it's the late 60s. You're at Stratford. Maybe it's the early
Well,
70s.
like early 70s.
Early
at
70s.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Early
Late
70s.
60s for all the other stuff, like drop in and that.
Right.
Yeah. By the time, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes, the 70s rolled around, I was having a serious theater career.
Right, right. You were a thespian, like you said. So how did Black Christmas come your way?
Well, I have, well, actually, I think my mother was my agent at that point, and I had an audition, and I went in and obviously read for the part. I might have read for other parts as well. I don't know. Anyway, but I think I got the role of Claire because I told them that I was a good swimmer and I could hold my breath for a long time, which
Interesting.
came in very handy for the shoot.
I bet. Yes, I bet it
And
did.
also, I played a lot of dead people. Even then, I mean, we laugh. My husband and I laugh because we make a list of how many ways I've died on film.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to say that's great.
Well, I've certainly, I know what it's like to lie on a slab in a morgue.
Right, right.
I know what it's like to throw myself out of a, 24-story building. I know what it's like to be set on fire.
That's right.
I mean, isn't that cool?
Yes, it is. It is.
I hope I die peacefully in my sleep.
Yeah. Somehow I don't think that's going to happen. You're going to be tossed out the window or something like that, So when it comes to Black Christmas, it came out in the fall, winter, or late 1974.
Right.
Do you recall when exactly you were shooting it? Was it early in 74, late 73?
I guess it was because it was winter.
Yes.
So it would be probably late 73, and it was extremely cold.
Yeah.
And some of those scenes that they were shooting outside were very tricky for the people. I didn't have to do that, but they did. And poor John Saxon, who they flew in at the last minute, I guess probably from LA, had no idea what he was getting into when he had to step outside. And I think that was probably one of the first things that was shot.
Right.
So he was like literally, zoomed into this frigid temperature,
right.
and said, "Here you are. Now you're acting in Canada. Get used to it."
That's right. Yeah, he was a last minute. Of course, he just passed away about a month or so ago now, and he was a last minute replacement. I think the story is the guy that they wanted was beginning to suffer with dementia, I think. And
I don't know that.
one of the he was another known name, and which is why they got him. And the story is, at least from one of the documentaries I saw, one of the producers said that I think when they were all out to dinner with this guy, he started to say things and sort of, he didn't know where he was, and they were thinking to themselves, we already ate, or we already went there. Anyway, one of the producers had to go up and talk to him and basically say in a, very nice, cordial sort of way that he was being let go. And this was, I think, so the story, as well as I do that sometimes these things can be fudged for entertainment in terms of it was the very next day we were going to shoot. Maybe it was. But
yeah, I do think it was sort of a last minute.
Oh, it definitely was. Yes.
But
he came in, and I think they went right to the set.
I didn't know of the story you're relating now, but that's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought, oh my God, and Saxon came in, and as the story goes, he went right from the airport to the set.
Yeah.
So it must have been really last minute.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's hard to know, but
he was terrific, and I used to do conventions with him, and he was, because he's really very well known.
Yeah.
And, I would sit beside him at conventions. He was the sweetest guy. He was just wonderful with all his fans.
Yeah. Yeah. He was.
And he did some Q&As with us, even late in his life.
Yeah. Yeah. I never met him, but I hear he was just such a sweetheart of a guy. And, obviously very unfortunate to have lost him, but he lived a good life and had a great career. So
yeah. and left a incredible catalog of work.
100%. Yep, for
Yeah.
sure. When you think of Black Christmas in your role, or just the movie in general, I mean, it's a long time ago now, and I have no doubt you've been asked many things thousands of times. But what is, when you think back on that time in your life, I mean, it's become such a cult classic. It's embedded itself into the pop culture in sort of a niche area. Like you said the other day on the phone when we were talking, it wasn't really a big thing out of the gate. It didn't really spawn a series, so it sort of fell into obscurity a bit. And then in the late 90s, early 2000s, because of the internet and the ease of access to information and the remake in 2006, of course, people started to take another look at this thing. But I mean, when you were making it, I mean, it's, you don't know whether things are going to be successful or not. Sometimes you might have a feeling, sometimes you may not. But what is something that, when you think back at that time, what are the things that stand out to you as not just, I don't want to ask did you know it was going to be, did you not know? But for you as a young actor in Toronto at that time, you're on this movie set with Olivia Hussey and Margot Kidder, who wasn't Margot Kidder at the time. This is several years before Superman. But what's one thing or a couple of things that stand out to you as a young actor in that movie? Because I assume that this was your first big movie?
Yes, and my first screen kiss. Art Hindle likes to remind me of that.
I'm not surprised by that either.
When he reminded me of it the first time, I didn't remember, so he was quite offended. But I mean, I was, I'd been working at Stratford, so to work with Olivia Hussey, who I was just, to sit in the room with her and be able to ask her about working on Romeo and Juliet with Zeffirelli was incredible.
I bet.
And I knew Margot really well from films, and also Andrea Martin.
Yes, that's right. Of course. I can't forget about Andrea Martin.
And Bob Clark, who was such a honey of a man. I called him Uncle Bob. He created such a lovely atmosphere. The whole shoot was sort of like a Christmas party. And it is funny if you're shooting something that's like a horror film and scary, and some maybe not so pleasant things are being said over the phone to you, you would think, there might be an atmosphere of sort of discomfort.
Right.
But in fact, it was exactly the opposite. He would have us laughing all the time. And certainly, I mean, we'll get into talking about the way we shot the scene in the attic, because that was really, really special working with Bob. And also, the thing that I like to tell is, like, Bob has made two of the most iconic Christmas movies, because A Christmas Story is the other one, and they couldn't be more different.
It's true.
In genre than those two movies, but those are two movies that people love to watch every Christmas.
Yeah.
I think when the internet and when Facebook started, people really started to discover Black Christmas again, and some other older movies, Canadian movies particularly, that were made at that time. And then the conventions started having them, we had tables, we had ways to promote the film, especially when it was re-released on a DVD and Blu-ray. That was really what kicked it into sort of the 21st century.
Right. Really high gear. No, you're right. The convention scene, I mean, it's gone from, it is a comic convention. I mean, that's where it began, right? Comic Con is really what it is. And now it's just really a pop culture convention. And that happened.
Well, and it's also, there are special ones that are really just scream fests, that are just for horror. And they're amazing.
Yeah,
you're
right.
Amazing group of people that come out who are devoted to horror films, and particularly ones from that period of time. Not necessarily, although there's certainly other modern films represented, but I think that kind of psychological horror that was in those films was sort of a fascinating thing for people when they rediscovered them.
Right.
That they were so used to seeing slasher films that to see something that actually was scary but not filled with blood and gore,
Right.
was actually quite fascinating for them, and got a huge cult following.
It did. No, you're right. I've you know, that theater of the mind aspect is for me, and you know, the viewers to my channel know this ad nauseum because I never let them not hear it. I'm a big fan of mood and atmosphere,
Right.
and that theater of the mind. One of the I mean, so many things you could talk about, but when I think of Black Christmas, funny enough, one of the things that always stands out to me, and I'm not just saying this because you're here on the show, but is your scene, but it's the lead up to the moment that you are attacked by Billy in the closet, I guess. And I've always, for me, what usually gets me in horror movies is usually it's the nuance of things. And it's the setup, if it's done really well and done right. I'm looking at you here. I keep forgetting. I got to look up there too to see people. Anyway, it's a whole thing going on here. Whatever. They don't care. Shut up, Dave. Anyway, so, but the thing that I love about that scene is, you're in the bedroom. I think it's a bedroom, right? Yeah. And, you hear the cat meowing.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, I think you hear the cat meowing.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. And then you begin to walk towards the closet. Now, I don't know if this was picked up actually there or if you ADR'd this. And I don't know if they used the same one. I can't quite tell, but I just love it gives me goosebumps even now just talking about it. There's something about you walking because I don't think there's any music. And if there is, it's a very subtle sort of just that piano scrape kind of thing. And you're walking into the closet and you can hear your character going, who is that?
Claude? Yeah, who is that?
Who is that? And it's just it's the repetitive, who is that? Like almost on a subconscious level, you know that something isn't right. Because you're not saying, what is that? You're saying, who is that? I think it's who is that? I mean, geez, this totally goes down the toilet now if I'm wrong. But there's something.
It is, 'cause I guess I believe initially that it's the cat in my closet.
Right. Right. And naturally you would. But there's something about when the character enters and you're getting closer and closer to the plastic bags are just hanging there. There's this, it's like there's something not right here. What the hell is this? And then, of course, just the moment where, he comes out and he grabs you. But I mean, that's great. The moment where he grabs you and that's all great, but there's just that. If you don't have that beautiful lead up that is eerie, it's just eerie to me. The way you're saying, who is that? The way you can kind of hear the Christmas stuff going on in the background. It's just, it's eerie to me. And it gets me every time. And whenever I think of that movie, there's a few things I think of, but that's one of the things I think about.
That's interesting. But I think we had talked about this before, that it's oftentimes it's what you don't see on a horror film,
That's right.
The setup of what that builds the anticipation and the fear, rather than you see, there he is. He's coming towards you with a hockey mask and an axe. Okay, something bad's going to happen.
Right.
And also, I think the kind of innovative way of killing someone by smothering them with a plastic bag. Now I've seen this now lots of times in films, but I don't know that I may have been the first one to die that way. It's very unusual and very unexpected. I think horror films work best when those moments are completely unexpected. It was my favorite one in Black Christmas is when I guess Olivia goes she's on the phone and she's told that it's coming from the house, and she goes to the front door, and then you go, just leave the house, get out of the house. And she walks by the stairs and her hair gets pulled.
Yes.
I mean, that still makes me jump out of my seat.
Oh,
because you don't see it coming.
No, you don't. No, you don't, because you don't see him at all.
No.
And no, that's true. That's true. That was chilling. And of course, a little cliche because I think it's it's sort of a symbol of the movie as well. Is Billy's eyeball. I mean, that I remember the first time I watched the movie, I was probably 10. So it was probably about
That's pretty scary.
Oh, because what's so great about that scene too is Olivia is kneeling down because she's just discovered Barb and Phil dead, the character names. And she hears him, and she's looking, and the way it's so ingenious because as the camera's panning, you're almost expecting to see a face. Like you don't realize quite yet, because we're so close to the door, you don't realize quite yet how close the shot is framed. Because you're moving along and you think you're going to see a face or at least a chin or or something, and you realize that it's an extreme close up of the eyeball. And what a beautiful shot. I mean, just so incredible.
I wonder whose eyeball that was.
It's a good question.
I don't know. I can't illuminate that. I don't know whose eyeball that was. I mean, it might have been. I don't think it was Clare. I don't think it was his eyeball. Maybe, I don't know.
No, I think
it could have been. It could have been Bob's for all we know, because Bob loved to. That could have been a really good cameo appearance for Bob.
Can you imagine if you find out that that's who it was? Whoever was the actor that was on top of Margot, doing the stab with whoever that was, because several people played Billy. I mean, you had Bob, who was doing a bit of the phone. You had, and his name escapes me now. He's an Italian.
Mancuso.
Right.
Did some of the Billy voiceover.
On the phone.
Most of the Billy voiceover.
Right. But I don't think he was the one. I don't think he was the eye, and I don't think he was the silhouette. I think that might have been somebody else.
But I will tell you that, I mean, one of the reasons that Black Christmas is so innovative and was copied so much and was because it was sort of the beginning of what's known as the Steadicam, although it wasn't a Steadicam. It was, and I love giving Burt Dunk the credit for this, because he was basically, in most of those shots, he was the hands, because they rigged it, and Steadicam didn't exist back then. So he had the camera sort of in a backpack on his chest. He was the one who strangled me. It was his hands. He was the one climbing up the trellis on the outside of the building. It was probably his hands that were stabbing Margot. So it was that wonderful kind of POV of him being that close, and and then putting like the breathing over top of it and stuff. That to me was like so brilliant and so scary at the time, because you see part of this person. But that was all the cameraman. That was Burt Dunk.
Yeah.
I actually have a photograph from that scene, a black and white photograph of the moment where Burt actually grabs me by the neck in the closet. It's a really brilliant sort of
amazing
photograph that was taken obviously on the fly at that moment. But it's very compelling, and it's very. I mean, it was very unusual at the time to do that, and awkward. I mean, now you go, the Steadicam has developed into this extraordinary way of shooting, but back then it wasn't. It was pretty innovative for them to be able to do that and come up with that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was, and I think it was that kind of thing. Eventually made its way to Rocky, of course.
Oh,
and
well,
then,
yeah.
And then to Halloween.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think John Carpenter was really influenced by Black Christmas.
Definitely. Oh yeah. No, you can definitely see. I mean, it's its own thing, and he made it. Its own thing. But you can definitely see the inspiration, and of course, there's that famous. Story that Bob Clark always said, where he was working with John Carpenter, and John Carpenter said, are you going to make a sequel to Black Christmas? And Bob Clark said, no, I didn't get in this business to do just horror films. And John said, but if you did, what would you do? And Bob Clark said, well, I don't know. I'd probably have him escape a year later, and he'd go back to his hometown, and he'd go back there on Halloween. And some people have said, oh my God, John Carpenter ripped off Bob Clark. But even Bob Clark has said, listen, that's a one little thing in a bucket of, I mean, John made a whole, the music and the character and the mask. And I mean, that's all John, you know what I mean? So I've never looked at it that Carpenter ripped off, Clark's potential idea for a sequel to
no, I don't
Black
think
Christmas,
so.
no.
I kind of consider it more of an homage.
Right. Well, it's what films do to each other all the time.
Right.
Right. It's just
and a lot of people use those techniques that Bob and Reggie Morris and Burt Junk created.
That's right. Oh yeah, 100%. So let's go back a little bit. Tell me about your scene in the attic. Talk to me about this. I know you've talked about this before, no doubt, to lots of other people, but share this with me. Tell me about this scene of you, Claire, in the, I mean, for goodness sakes, you're still there. I mean, they never found you.
That's what, when we were talking about, like, if you were going to do a remake, it would be a little bit like Norman Bates' mother in Psycho. She's still there.
That's
not
Mrs.
looking
Mac.
too healthy,
That's right.
by the way. Although
true.
maybe the plastic bag served as a kind of preservation.
Maybe, but the rest of
So
her
maybe,
just, yeah.
well, I guess I couldn't be in the film, though, because I would have not aged. I would have just decomposed.
So there'd just be a skeleton.
But they could still use my face and decompose me. I'd be happy with that.
That's true.
But the scene took several days to shoot. Bob was great with me because, we had a lot of things to kind of work out and see what would work best. Basically, it was me, Bob, and Burt Junk up in the attic because it was the real attic in that house, and it was small. And, Set Deck had done a really wonderful job of making it look seriously creepy.
It looks creepy.
So, we were figuring out how to make the plastic bag work. And, initially they thought, oh, well, if we poke holes like in her nose and her mouth, she'll be able to breathe. But when we tried that, of course, you could see the plastic moving slightly and then sort of condensation would sort of happen. So that wasn't going to work. I kind of think we're going to have to just like really do the thing, just really stick it in your mouth and stick it up your nose, and you're going to have to hold your breath and also keep your eyes open, which was really cool. But I had experience at doing this of playing dead. So
you were a pro by that time.
Hey, bring it on. So I would sit in the chair and we'd get the bag all rigged and we'd start to shoot. And then Bob would sit. Bob was always sitting right opposite me. So as far as like having sort of a safety net, Bob was always there. In fact, he had his foot on the rocker of the rocking chair, and it was Bob that was rocking it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so, even then, I mean, if anything had been dangerous for me, all I had to do was reach out and grab Bob, and he knew, that I needed a break or needed. But I mean, I'm like still amazed when I watch that scene now, and I go, how long they're actually able to hold on my face without any movement, without anything. So that was pretty good.
You did a great job.
But it took, and we shot it from many different angles. And then we introduce Claude the Cat.
Right.
Claude the Cat was a total diva. Claude was hired for his looks, not for his talent, because Claude did not want to behave. So Bob would hold Claude on his lap and sort of throw Claude at me while I'm sitting in the chair. Well, Claude, most of the time he kind of lands sort of partially on my knees with his claws out and slide down my legs and not want to do this thing. So they eventually decided the best way was to spray the plastic bag with my face underneath with catnip so that Claude would come up onto my lap.
That's a good idea.
And, yeah. But that cat at that time, I was like, oh, come on. Because, I've done other things and certainly with cats too. I remember once shooting really late into the night, and they were trying to get this shot with a cat. And I finally said to them, "Oh, please, just throw the cat on my head."
Yeah.
Because he was supposed to come and like that. And of course, when we did that, it worked the very first time. The first take was great, but they were trying to lure the cat in all the different ways. Didn't want to go on my head.
I can imagine there was a lot of this going on. Come on.
Yeah. And if you know cats the way I
have a cat, yeah.
Yeah, I have. Well, I think I've had 21 over my lifetime.
Wow.
I have 3.
I know it's not a very stereotypical manly thing. Men are usually, dog people, and I love dogs too. Don't get me wrong, I love dogs.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm a cat guy. I've always been a cat guy.
Yeah, they're totally cool.
Oh, they're amazing, amazing. Yeah, but sorry, continue.
No. So, and I'm trying to think if there was anything. Oh, there is other, like Bob would be. He always kept things very, very light because he liked to kind of get me all rigged up, and we'd shoot and shoot and shoot until we broke for lunch. And then he'd say, "And Lynn, we're breaking for lunch, but if it's okay, we're just going to bring you something like liquid with a straw so we don't have to take it." And I go, "Bob, you go, it's not really lunch for you. We're just going to bring you a milkshake with a straw so we don't have to take all this stuff." Because it was kind of stuck to my face as well. Anyway,
right. The continuity over health, right? I mean, that's really what.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't need to eat, do you? No,
of course not. No. But I really like that wrinkle on her cheek there with the bag.
Yeah.
Can we just bring a straw in, please? A flex straw?
Yeah. Let's get a Polaroid of that so we can match that wrinkle in that plastic. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's so funny because your character, when we look at sort of it from an objective point of view, your character doesn't last very long.
No. Is
killed in the first 15 minutes of the movie, let's say. But it is so your character, ironically, has become the symbol of the movie and the symbol of, you could say the symbol of the franchise, I guess, even though it's not. I mean, it is with the 2 remakes, but certainly of that movie. And of course you are in the movie periodically throughout as they cut back to you in the attic. And so it's such an integral, and then of course you're that final shot as the camera is pulling out from the window or up to the window, I think it is. And then back, and you just say you're still there, you and Mrs. Mack hanging out,
Yeah. Like, boy, those policemen didn't really search the house, did they?
They didn't. I guess they were so convinced it was Peter that
that police department, they didn't really understand how to translate a phone number either. So
do you know, I know it was supposed to take place in the US, obviously, because even though it's a Canadian film shot in Toronto, it was supposed to be in the US, so it's more marketable to a US audience. I see you laughing here. I think a story's coming. I don't know. I can kind of sense it. But naturally, especially, that still happens today, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
But certainly in 1974, I understand it. I get it. And I do understand that maybe you're thinking about the name change and why they decided to do that. Maybe that's why you're laughing. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm laughing because, and this has happened to me several times, and it certainly happened in Black Christmas, that all of a sudden on John Saxon's desk, on the detective's desk, they had to put the little American flag.
Right.
Now, they've done that with me in scenes too, where I've been there and I've been playing whatever my role, the secretary or the school principal or whatever I am in the scene. And all of a sudden, the American flag comes out of props, and I'm going, "Oh, come on. Seriously?"
I know.
We have to put the American flag on the desk. It has to be front and center so we know where this is happening.
It's so funny.
It's pretty funny.
What a psychological I totally, I do get it. I do get it, and it is a very real thing. But I've seen shows where I'm like, well, there's the first Canadian place, but clearly the CN Tower has been digitally removed.
And there's clearly U of T in Black Christmas.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, the town is Bedford. Do you recall it ever what state it's supposed to be in, or is it just one of the northern, Michigan, New York, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Bedford. I don't know if Bedford really exists. Bedford has been big in my life because shot a series that was supposed to take place in New Bedford. So
interesting.
I think Bedford is actually used quite a bit. It might be completely made up and it doesn't exist anywhere. So it doesn't have any kind of copyright.
Right. There is a Bedford in Nova Scotia.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I have a sister that lives out there.
Never shot in Bedford, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
Halifax, yes, but not Bedford.
Yeah, there's a Bedford. I was totally unaware of that until the other day.
I guess it's, I mean, it's sort of, it has the connotation of sort of a nice, quiet, cozy town where things like that don't happen.
Right. And because it's fairly ambiguous, I mean, it could be like, clearly it's Christmas time, there's snow. So it's either the Midwest or the Northeast or something like that.
Yeah.
I was just curious if you knew, but yeah, no, it's, and of course, when it was released in 1974, it was released by Warner Brothers under the title Silent Night, Evil Night.
Right.
And I always found that funny because, and I was like, well, I wonder why that is. And then, I discovered it's because they were worried that people would think it was a blaxploitation film, because of the title. Is that why? That's why, because of the title Black Christmas. They were worried that people would think it was about a bunch of black people, at Christmas time. And it was one of those, like those kind of Shaft kind of films, or something like that.
I don't want to laugh, but I say, now there's the remake that should be made.
That would be fun. That'd be fun. It'd be like a comedy or something.
The movie that just came out, was it called If? One, it's really, really good, but it's, it's about a black family that sort of starts terrorizing.
Us.
Sorry. If is, I know what If is now. I remember what different film. I thought that was really, really well done.
Yeah, I liked Us too. Yeah. No, that's why. And I always thought that was really kind of funny. And then when it didn't do very well, they changed on subsequent releases of the movie, or even during the same release, maybe they switched the title back. But you can still get posters with that title.
Didn't want it to be confused with White Christmas, like the Bing. But it was just
maybe
that's why there's a black one and there's a white one.
Right.
So which one are you gonna watch? Which one do you
That's so funny. Do you remember? So after Black Christmas comes out, and it, I don't think it did very well in the U.S. because of the title and then the title change and the swap and all that kind of stuff.
I think that might have confused people. I mean, certainly, yes, it would confuse people when they're going, what film are you actually trying to see?
Exactly.
What's the title of it? I actually have posters from both. So I have a Silent Night, Evil Night poster.
Yeah.
It's the same poster. It's just the name change.
The name change. Yeah. Even the same font, I think, actually.
Yeah, it's all the same. And I must say that it was quite a day when we were shooting in the house and Bob took me, into the kitchen or whatever. And he said, I just want to show you what we're thinking of using as the poster image. I had no idea that they had that. I mean, I was so flattered and really gobsmacked that was the image that they were going to use.
Right.
And then it became so iconic. And then when the film was released and re-released, it was always the image that they used. That's kind of cool, even though, if you're going to be on a poster, that's a hard way to be recognized from.
It is, but it's great bragging rights.
But
I'll tell you that.
It was great, and to this day, I'm actually quite fond of that image, and I've actually appeared in a lot of other films where they sit me in a rocking chair. Now they don't put a bag over my head, but every time I'm there, like looking out of a window, sitting in a rocking chair, I go, "Here we are. I'm back. Black Christmas is back."
Well, do you know what's so funny is that the other day when I gave you a call, and you picked up your phone, the first thing, because you were right in the middle. I mean, talk about perfect timing. You were right in the middle of watching our Indiegogo teaser for It's Me, Billy.
That's right.
So when I called you and you went, hello, in the background, I can hear a rocking chair rocking back and forth.
Oh my God.
I'm thinking.
You thought I was sitting. That's hilarious.
No, at first I'm thinking, of course, naturally,
hey,
I would assume if Lynne Griffin ever picks up, when she picks up her phone, naturally there's going to be a rocking chair.
But I could do the whole interview that we're having like this.
That's
You
true.
wouldn't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I
It
might
just
get
happens.
tired though, that,
Yeah.
having to keep it up. I might forget to do it.
But
But
it
yeah, no,
was,
I don't own a rocking chair. Well, actually, that's not true. There is a rocking chair on my porch.
I was gonna, I thought you were gonna say in your attic.
No,
Uh,
no, no,
that would have
no.
been
That would
amazing.
be scary.
But I just thought that was so funny. It was just, I started to laugh because I'm thinking, of course, I call Lynne Griffin and you pick up and you hear a rocking chair. I just thought that was hilarious. But after Black Christmas, you told me something really cool that I know the viewers will find interesting. What year did you move to Los Angeles?
I moved to Los Angeles in 1984, 82 probably,
Okay.
but absolutely permanently in 84. But yeah,
So
82, because I went down to Los Angeles well, first of all, I was shooting some scenes from Strange Brew in Los Angeles. I
right.
was shooting the underwater stuff at MGM lot and the Esther Williams tank. And I went down to Los Angeles then, and then I stayed and I was there during the Olympics that happened there. And then I probably moved there permanently, probably between 84 and 86. And then I stayed there till 96. So I was in Los Angeles. I lived in Los Angeles for about 12 years.
Very cool. And you told me something that was kind of cool on the phone the other day too. Whose house was it that you ended up
Oh,
buying?
yes, I bought John Carpenter's house. My husband at the time and I bought John Carpenter's house, which was, I don't know that we even knew that at the time. However, my husband was shooting a film for Tommy Lee Wallace, Steve Poster. He was shooting a film for Tommy Lee Wallace, and Tommy Lee Wallace and his wife, Nancy Loomis, or Nancy Kyes now, Nancy Loomis was in Halloween.
That's right.
So we made the connection when they came over to they went, well, John and Adrienne Barbeau lived here. This is their house.
Wow.
So that was very, I mean, what a strange and wonderful coincidence that was.
That is really
Yeah.
cool. And you ended up becoming quite good friends with
Nancy
Nancy Kyes.
Nancy is still a very, very dear friend of mine,
Yeah.
and absolutely terrific visual artist with found object now.
Interesting.
Yeah. And she does every now and then she'll go out and do a convention. And she was the one who originally said to me, Lynne, you should do these conventions. They would really like to see you. And I was like, I don't know what is this? And she would go, you won't believe it. Like they'll fly you down somewhere and they'll pay you and they'll put you up and you sign these autographs for people and they throw money at you and you just sit there and they praise you and they tell you how well you look and what a brilliant actress you are. Like, what a great thing to do. And I went, oh, okay. She was absolutely right.
It's a good little ego boost.
Total ego boost. You couldn't get much better.
That's so funny. I love it. It's almost like you say it's almost like I could hear Nancy's character of Annie in Halloween, because Annie in Halloween was very sarcastic and blunt like that. And you just describing her saying that, I can almost just picture it's like what Annie would say,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, what's wrong with you? Do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll like it. Trust me. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not going to do the ones that you do, but you go do it. It's good.
Right.
You'll make money. I go, okay, thanks, Nan. Thanks, Nan.
Yeah. That's so great. Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, that's so cool. So you're in Los Angeles, and what were some of the highlights for you as an actor while you were out in Los Angeles?
Well, I did a miniseries called I'll Take Manhattan, which was a Judith Krantz novel. That's the one where I had to throw myself out of the 24-story window and
24
flat on the ground. Yeah, that was the way I killed myself. And also I had to learn how to ride a horse for that film. And I remember going out for these lessons, and Barry Bostwick was in it too. And the two of us were trying ride these horses. And he kept falling off. I mean, it was so dangerous. And when we got to the actual shoot, they went, well, what we want her to do is like she falls off the horse going over a jump. I'm like, oh no, she doesn't. I mean, Lynn doesn't. The stunt woman does.
Right.
So a stunt woman did that, but a stunt woman wasn't available because we actually shot me. If I'm not mistaken, we shot the jumping out of the building and the splat landing. In a studio was the jump, but I supposedly landed in front of what used to be the Colonnade on Bloor Street.
Mm.
But in the studio, it was like they built this structure like of a window. And then, I mean, maybe it was about 12 feet off the ground. And they put a mattress on the floor. And they said, okay, you're just going to fall. You're just going to, and not jump like feet first, but fall face first. And I'm going onto a mattress on a concrete floor. Is there a stunt coordinator anywhere?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's what I'd be thinking too.
So it was, some of the things that you're asked to do as an actor, yeah, you can fall off a horse jumping over a nice high jump. No. Anyway, but I did it and it was so much fun. I asked to do it again.
Oh,
but it's a great moment where you just see someone like completely fall face first.
Right. Were you able to turn your head as you hit the mattress though? Or did you have to keep it straight?
I probably did, but however I did it, I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it and it worked. It worked.
And it worked, yeah. So that was, other than that, while I was in Los Angeles, I did a lot of theater. I did, I think at least 12 or 13 shows at a theater called the Old Globe in
Amazing.
San Diego, and wonderful, wonderful roles. It's where I met my current husband, Sean Sullivan. I met him at the Old Globe doing a play called The Voice of the Prairie. And, yeah, so other than doing like a lot of like episodic stuff, I did. What are some of those shows? Oh my God, I can't even remember TV shows.
I think I was skimming your IMDb and I saw like some bit parts on NYPD Blue.
Right.
And let's see here. Go back to when you were in LA. NYPD Blue. We have you were a waitress in The Heavenly Kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Night Heat. Hitting Home. You were on an episode of War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
And
there was a lot of like fun stuff. My primary focus during that time was to do theater, and I got to work at some wonderful, wonderful theaters, and got to play some extraordinary, wonderfully challenging roles, and really developed as an actress during that time, even though it was funny that it was in LA that I did theater. And then when I moved back to Toronto on the strength of the few film things that I did in LA gave me this great kind of cred for coming back to Toronto. And I was able to get a lot of television work once I moved back to Toronto, where I'd always done theater before.
It's kind of ironic in that way.
Yeah, it was.
That's funny. Yeah, theater is definitely, I haven't done theater professionally. I did it in high school and I did a bit in college. And, it's true. There is something about theater that is electric. And, you definitely are, especially, if it's a packed house and you're working with a great bunch of people and it's a role that you love and it's a story that you're excited about, and you just can't wait to get out there and, feed off of the energy of the audience. That's right. And that's something that, you don't get when you're doing television.
It's a very different experience. And
Yep.
Film is really the director and the editor's medium. You can do a fantastic take and it may not be the one that they use because they go, was that good for sound? No, we're going to have to do it again. And you go, oh, that was sort of the take. And so and even when in the final film, you may not even end up in the final film. There's a film that I did a 9-minute scene, which was just me and my son. It was one of those kind of, what do you call them? Mockumentaries. And in the end, I was cut out of it entirely. And I even went to the initial screening going, oh boy, I'm going to see no. I was going like
Wow.
saying to my husband, "Oh, my scene's coming up now. My scene's no."
A-
Wow.
And you just said a 9-minute scene.
It was 9 minutes, and it
That's a
was
lot of
mostly
time to cut.
it was me just talking. It was me just talking. I
Wow.
was playing it was a mockumentary about, a kind of failed rock star. It
Mm.
was called The Life and Times of Guy Terrifico, and I was a groupie that followed his career, while he was hanging out with the Rolling Stones. So first of all, I had to do it with a Cockney accent,
Right.
and it was literally like a 9-minute monologue. Now the great thing was when the film was finally released on DVD, they included in the special features that scene uncut and that whole scene. So at least I got to be in a special feature on the DVD, but not in the theatrical release.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate, to because especially when it was so it's almost not even a cameo, at a 9-minute scene. I mean, it's
Right. And you know how those mockumentaries are put together,
right.
that they're sort of interviewing different people in the life of
Right.
whoever. And
Right.
very much like the way Christopher Guest does them. That's what it was like.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
Interesting. So is there anything in your career in terms of roles that you saw come up either through auditions that you went to audition that may surprise us, or roles that maybe you didn't go out for whatever reason, that we would know today?
Meaning roles that I didn't get cast in.
Right, right. Well, yes, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Either
those.
roles. Hey, there's a lot of auditions I've done that I haven't
Yeah,
even ever seen
yeah,
a
a
live.
lot of auditions that you
As
don't
they
get booked.
say, the actor's work is auditioning, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I guess I mean that. That was sort of a two-part question. Let's ask the first part first. Is there any roles that you've done, or sorry, auditions that you've gone on that you haven't got, that would surprise us? How?
Oh, okay. I've got a really good one.
Perfect.
I had probably maybe a 4-hour audition with Terry Gilliam
Oh.
at the Chateau Marmont, in a room at the Chateau Marmont for Brazil.
Ooh.
And it went
Wow.
on forever. It went on forever. We were in the
4
room and he was,
hours.
putting me through all kinds of different, it was wonderful. And, that may sound kind of creepy that we were in a room at the Chateau Marmont, but believe me, Terry Gilliam was hilarious and a total gentleman. Now, I have been chased around other hotel rooms by rather unsavory characters
Right.
who claimed they were making movies.
Right.
But that one, and man, I mean, did I want that role?
I
Oh my
bet.
God. But back in the day when I was first in LA, because I went down on the strength of I'll Take Manhattan, and or actually I went down on the strength of Strange Brew, and I got a really, really high-powered agent at ICM, and they shotgunned me out there. I mean, I would be sitting in the waiting room with like Michelle Pfeiffer, Gina Davis, all these, and I remember there was a movie called The Money Pit. I think it was eventually done
Yes.
with
Tom Hanks and Shelley Long, I think.
Shelley Long. And I walked into the room, and it was directed by Richard. He's an actor. Now I can't remember his name. Sorry, yeah, because I met some pretty heavyweight directors.
Richard
Anyway,
Benjamin.
Richard Benjamin, who people know from, as an actor.
Right.
But I walked into the room and I sat down, and he said, "Who are you? Where are you from? And who are you?" And that was when there were, those heavyweights out in the,
Right.
in the living room. And I was like, well, I come from Canada. What are you doing here? Why are you here? And it was very,
It's like
very
a
strange.
nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
And
like
I think I had another audition for Peter Bogdanovich, who was kind of the same. I don't know what the movie was. It was a movie, I think Kim Basinger played the role. It was a movie about baseball. Anyway, I can't remember. Anyway, and He was not very, I mean, he was one of those that didn't really even look at you while you were
Right.
reading. There were so many different experiences auditioning in LA because
Yeah.
sometimes when you said you were Canadian, they were like, they just thought that was like magical, that you had talent coming out of every pore of your body because not only had you studied kind of the way American modern acting, but you also had the British tradition of having done a lot of stage work. So you were extremely brilliantly technically trained as well as able to be naturalistic on film. So there were some that were great, although, I remember going in on one audition. I guess it was the casting director looked at my resume and said, "Okay, I'm seeing all these shows. So what is a doll's house? Is that like a kids show that you did?" So you're like, "Oh, come on." I played Nora in A Doll's House.
Right.
Ibsen, okay? And it was like, "Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa," way over their head.
Right. Right.
Um, so, yeah, I mean, there are certainly, while I was in LA, certainly stuff that passed me by because I was, pretty much out of my depth. Even having to drive onto a lot or not get a drive on pass onto a lot and have to go to a lot and take a shuttle bus and then walk miles to where the audition was so that you're thoroughly
Right.
sweaty and exhausted and you go in and you know so I mean, you meet a lot of incredible people and you get to work with. I mean, I did a film with Meryl Streep and she
Yeah.
was great to me. She was wonderful because I basically had to blow her off in the film. I had to tell her, no, the doctor can't see you now, was basically my part. But I was sitting behind a desk. I was supposed to be like a receptionist at Johns Hopkins Hospital. And I was sitting behind the desk all day, and eventually she walked by, and the craft service guy had passed me by with his tray of smoothies. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh gosh, you've been sitting behind that desk all day. I bet you'd really like a smoothie." And that guy just, didn't even offer you one. Let me go get you one.
That's unbelievable.
So she was amazing.
I
So
was saying it's
amazingly
unbelievable the fact that they didn't
positive
even offer you
story.
one. Yeah.
I will say on the set of NYPD Blue, David Caruso had a chair that like one of those director's chairs that all the different actors get. But
Right.
on the back of his, it said Mr. Difficult.
That's good. I like that. I like that. I like that
Yeah.
he's just owning it. You know?
Well, or he'd never looked at the back of his chair.
Or never looked at. I see what you're saying.
And the crew was
Right.
kind of going, "Okay, this is how we feel."
Right. Boy, I hate to think what people would put on the back of my chair.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't
Always
know.
check the back of your chair.
That's right. Probably
You know,
mood and
'cause
atmosphere.
we always approach it from the front and we go, "Oh, this is the one that I'm supposed to sit in." Or we go, "There's one that just says cast, so I guess I can sit in that one safely without
Right.
being,
Exactly.
booted out."
That's so funny. That's so funny. So, okay, well, maybe we should move over to some questions from the chat room,
Sure.
if you'd like to do that. I think it's first of all, I just want to say that this is really interesting, and to see your progression from sort of where you were in the late 60s, early 70s, Black Christmas, but then of course in the early 80s, moved to Los Angeles. You're there for a bit, you come back, and it's just sort of it's an interesting, because sometimes people move to LA and they just have the LA experience, and they don't ever leave. And whether they become successful or not, who knows? But they maybe they don't, but they just continue to grind it out in the LA bubble.
Right.
And to be able to have that LA experience, but then to come back to Toronto and have the Toronto, experience as well, which of course nowadays we're so connected with LA anyway, but
Right, and
it's
a lot of things shoot up here now,
exactly,
with the
exactly.
way the dollar is and the incentives that they have and the great crews that we have up here.
That's
A
right.
lot of stuff is American stuff is shot in
Yeah,
Toronto,
a ton of stuff,
and Toronto is made to look like Chicago or New
or
York.
New York. That's right. It's never Toronto, which is so disappointing to me because I'm like, it's such a, why can't it be? Well, there's this
Yeah,
aversion to Canada. We don't really.
that's why Strange Brew was so great. Strange
Yeah.
Brew was definitely Canadian.
Almost too Canadian.
Really.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, it's just I really appreciate you sharing all that because it's I've learned a lot about you and about your career and sort of little anecdotal things that I always find really interesting and fascinating.
Right.
Before we move over to the chat, there's a couple of things. First of all, number one is, are you a tear the Band-Aid off kind of gal or just remove it slowly? I think that's just,
Oh, no, tear
tear
the Band-Aid.
Tear the Band-Aid. Okay.
I had one on my stomach the other day. And I and it was funny because it was near my belly button, so it was kept kind of poking me. And I was finally like, that's it. Off it comes.
Right.
Yeah. Show the wound. Bleed.
I get my blood work taken regularly, and I whenever they do that, I just tear it right off, and just right off it goes.
Well, I have invisible veins. So when I get my blood work done, it usually means they have to poke me 5 or 6 times. And usually the nurse or whatever practitioner will give up and eventually try and get like whoever's like the super duper manager of the place to try. And they're like going, come on, like, why?
Right.
Like there's nothing there. I'm an alien. Anyway. So I don't like getting my blood work taken.
It's always an
unless
interesting
they can
experience.
get it first try, man. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go.
Well, I think it's just because you were in the attic for so long. There's just nothing there.
Maybe. Oh, yeah. I have no blood running through my veins.
That's what it is. Yep. And are you a pineapple on the pizza kind of gal or not?
Oh God, no.
Oh, no, Bruce will be excited.
No pineapple on the pizza, no anchovies on the pizza. Although I do like anchovy paste when I make a Caesar salad dressing.
Oh,
but
okay.
Pineapple is lovely. Pineapple is for dessert. Pineapple is not meant to be on a pizza.
Well,
with pepperoni.
I beg to differ.
Okay. Now, admittedly, you could change my mind if you knew of some place that made an extraordinary pizza that put pineapple on and made it work. Like if the pineapple was like kind of roasted, maybe, as opposed to just like from the can, put on top.
Some of the
roasted pineapple on a pizza might be actually quite nice.
It might be. I don't know if I've ever had roasted. Maybe I have.
Well, you think if they put it on before they put it in the oven, wouldn't it kind of get? Well, I don't know how long it takes to cook a pizza.
Some of the best pizza. Now, I haven't had this in a number of years because it's in Ottawa. Some of the best pizza I ever had was because I was born in Toronto, lived the first 10 years of my life there, and then I went to high school in Ottawa.
Oh, cool.
And there's a restaurant there called the Newport, and their pizza is, I'm assuming they still make it, fantastic. And,
well, I'll remember that if ever I get to work in Ottawa.
Yes, you have to remember the Newport. Okay, so now before we get to your questions, there's 2 things. One thing that I want to say on behalf of James, better known as Intel Wild, that's his screen name. He did, let me just go back here. I think he did make I hope James sent this as a super chat. I don't know if he did. Yes, he did. Okay, great. That's the way it's highlighted and I can see it. James, Intel Wild, got in touch with me yesterday. And James wants to do a very nice thing for 4 people here in the chat room. And he has revealed who he wants them to be. James, as many of you know, I myself and Bruce launched a perk yesterday on the Indiegogo campaign. We're only 2 weeks away from the end of our campaign. So we launched a final sort of kind of exclusive perk. Or what I thought was final until today, but we'll get to that in a second. And it is, of course, a advanced screening of It's Me, Billy, when the movie is done over Zoom. There's 50 spots available, and we're all going to hang out and watch the movie, and then there's a Q&A afterwards with myself and Bruce and the cast and yada, yada, yada. And there's some other juicy things that come with that perk as well. And James wants to buy 4 of those perks for 4 people in the chat room today. And James has picked the 4 people he wants to buy them for. Now, if you are not one of those people. Don't take it personally. This is not personal. James just chose 4 people that he wanted to do it for. And it's his right to choose. And James, you are amazing. If you are watching, thank you so much. You're a great supporter of the channel, and you certainly don't have to do this, but because you're doing it, I mean, it's just amazing. So his super chat here, which is a $10 super chat. Thank you, by the way, James. He says, Tabitha is number 1. Tabitha Short, my great moderator, Tabitha. Real Reveal, Real as R-E-E-L. Real Reveal is number 2. Billy Van, if you're in the chat room, is number 3. Oh, and cool. CM, the screen name CM is number 4. And then James says here, I have to leave soon. Dentist appointment this morning. Dave will explain at the end of the show. So Tabitha, Real Reveal, Billy, and CM, you are going to be getting the advanced screening perk for It's Me, Billy, thanks to James, thanks to Intel Wild. So again, thank you so much. I will coordinate with James after the show, after the fact, to figure out how to do that. James will probably just go ahead and buy 4 of them, and then I will get in touch with each of you individually and just jot down your information, and so I have it aside to know that those 4 go to you. So that is pretty darn cool, to say the least. And then, but wait, there's more. Today, Lynne has came to me, and this is I didn't know that she was going to do this. I didn't know she was going to say this. This is live, folks. This is live. You got to roll with the punches here, ladies and gentlemen. You got to roll with spontaneity. Lynne said to me before the show began that she wanted to offer something up as a perk as well. She is excited about It's Me, Billy. She thinks it's a cool idea, and she wants to help the Indiegogo campaign in the last couple of weeks. And Lynne is not just a talented, charming, and funny gal, but she also is pretty darn creative, if I do say so myself. Lynne, why don't you talk about this? What do you make here every Christmas?
I don't know if people can see this. I make black Christmas ornaments. So they have 2 different images, 2 of my favorite images, obviously one with, well, they both have the plastic bag on my head.
Amazing.
But I make these Christmas ornaments, lovely. You can hang them on your tree, or you can keep them up all year round if you wanted to. But I will sign them for you, and they'll be a good perk, I think. Anyway, I make them usually every Christmas, but when I knew that I was going to speak to Dave today, I went, why don't I offer, especially with the Indiegogo campaign, why don't I offer up some of these as an extra little perk for some Black Christmas fans?
Amazing. That you are a sweetheart to do that. I can't imagine that. I mean, it's just amazing. I'm flattered. I know that Bruce would be just as flattered. As a matter of fact, I thought I saw his name in the chat room somewhere here. Maybe he's watching. I'm not sure. But if he is, Bruce, that's pretty darn cool. And absolutely, we'll definitely take you up on that. And what Lynne will do is she will provide me with an image of that, and then I will try and get that perk up later this afternoon. I will make an announcement on social media that perk is there, and it will be limited quantity, of course. You know, we don't want to bombard Lynne with, so Lynne, there's 8,000 of these you have to make. so it will be a limited quantity, but certainly we think that is pretty darn cool, and that'll be up later today on the campaign. I think that's just amazing, Lynne, and really appreciate you doing that. I didn't know you did that. I'm definitely going to have to get one for myself, and just hang it up probably I'm definitely going to hang it up all year round.
You know, if you really want to get crazy, you could get 2 and you could wear them as earrings.
I will convince my girlfriend to do that.
Yeah, can you see?
I can. That looks great.
Well, actually, if I got smaller, I'll say globes this time rather than what I said before. Balls. If I got smaller balls.
You can't say any type of large, small, medium, and then follow it with balls. You just can't do
You
it.
can't.
No, you
But
can't.
you see, if they were a little bit smaller, you could definitely pull it off as earrings.
You could. It'd be a great thing for a convention or at Christmas
See?
time. Mm-hmm.
I got to do this now. Okay.
That's right. That's right. It's
Okay.
like Del Griffith
I'm
in
be
Planes.
offering up smaller balls.
It's like Del Griffith in Planes, Trades, and Automobiles. He took his shower curtain rings and he sold them as earrings, and that's
Brilliant.
That's it. I think it's brilliant. Amazing. Yeah. So again, thank you to Lynne and thank you to James, Intel Wild. You guys are awesome. So let's go over to the chat room and see what everybody is saying. There's about 102 people watching at the moment. Let's see if I know there are some super chats that did come in. So let's see if I'll get to those first. Real Reveal sends in a super chat and says, "Hi, Lynne. You were awesome in Black Christmas. Have you heard of It's Me, Billy, and have you seen the teaser?" Yes. She has.
Yes.
And she did see the teaser.
I know. I thought it was really good and really, I mean, very well shot. And I was assuming that, it was shot like really with super everything, all the bells and whistles, because it looked so incredibly professional. And scary.
Yes.
It's well cut. It's well edited. And definitely a good thing to kind of whet the appetite to want to see what they come up with as the whole film. And I love the idea of it, even though I can't be in it because I'm decomposed and dead.
Right. That's it. You're just dead.
That's it.
Right. So I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, we definitely, obviously we haven't shot the movie yet. So our goal with the Indiegogo teaser was to create a vibe, a tone, and set
and you
the
clearly did.
Yeah. And let people know that this is not Black Christmas 2019. This is not Black Christmas 2006. This is Black Christmas 74. And we shot it. We rented some gear, obviously from White's and shot it on a Canon C100, I think it was, which is it's got a Super 35 sensor. So it definitely, it's not
handheld on your cell phone.
Right. Exactly. But it's not a Red Epic or anything like that. But certainly part of the reason why, of course, we're raising the money for the movie is so we can shoot on a camera that will allow us the dynamic range of a real awesome cinematic experience. So whether that's the Airy or the Red, we're not sure yet, but that's our goal. And but we wanted to sort of say, hey, imagine this, but bigger. You know what I mean? So
longer.
Right. And longer. That's right. Bigger and longer. That's correct. Yes. So I appreciate you saying that. And yes, Lynne does know about it. I could hear the rocking chair in our teaser when you picked up the phone. So I thought it was great.
I was watching it right then. And I was quite impressed.
It was really fun. Chris Baber sends in a super chat and says, Strange Brew is one hell of an amazing movie. What was it like to work with Max von Sydow and everyone else?
Ooh. Uncle Max. Uncle Max was so sweet. Now, the story goes that, when they were sort of planning to make the film and cast the film, that Dave, said in, one of their meetings, like, I really think it would be great if I could get Max von Sydow. And everybody was like, yeah, right. You just go right ahead. So anyway, he evidently picked up the phone, somehow had found the number. When he called through, he got Max himself on the phone.
Wow.
And gave, obviously gave the premise of the film and what the role was that he wanted him to play. And Max evidently was like, yes, let me consider it. Anyway, Max said to him later that he got off the phone and he told his kids what the phone call was about. And they went, oh, Bob and Doug McKenzie, Dad, you have got to do that film. They are fabulous. We love them. So it was the kids that convinced Max to do Strange Brew.
That sounds very similar to the reasons why Donald Pleasance did Halloween. And John Carpenter always said that when he was asked to do Halloween, he didn't know who John Carpenter was, and I don't think he knew who Irwin Yablans was, and this
Right.
Halloween stuff. I don't know this kind of stuff because he's Donald Pleasance, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
but his daughter was a big fan. I think this is how the story goes. His daughter was a big fan of John Carpenter's first movie he did, or his first sort of real kind of movie, Assault on Precinct 13,
Huh.
and which of course
Yeah.
Nancy Kyes was in, I believe.
Yeah.
And so Donald Pleasance's daughter, I think it was like, you gotta do, I mean, he made, you gotta, I mean, so it's kind of funny, I mean,
Yeah, there may be a lot of kids out there that are responsible for some really great film performances
that's
that,
it.
famous actors decided to do just because their kids prompted them.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
I've heard of several of these stories. So, yeah, who knows?
Pretty crazy stuff. Let's see here.
And just by the way,
Sure.
not for Strange Brew fans, of course, they know that Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas directed the film. So the hardest thing for me to do was to try and keep a straight face, because I was the straight man. I was Pamelot. Was Pamlet. Anyway, yeah. So, because they are so funny, and even when they were directing, they were like cracking me up, and it was really hard to keep a straight face while I was shooting. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know that they were great fun to be with.
I
And
bet.
I just got to see Dave again at a con right before COVID hit, and he said, "Well, he's still, hanging in,
Yep.
and a happy-go-lucky guy." And it was great working with them.
Amazing. Once you get the giggles, boy, it's tough to.
Oh my God! And I'm terrible like that.
I
Like, even in church, I'm terrible like
in
that.
church. That's amazing. I love your honesty. I love it. It's great. Let's see here. Hey, Bruce. Bruce sends in a super chat. Bruce, my co-producer, co-director, co-writer of It's Me, Billy.
Hey,
Bruce sends in a super chat, and he says, "Hi, everyone. Lynne, you rock. Thank you for sharing about your career, your humor, and awareness. Thank you to everyone who's donated." Thank you so much, Bruce. Really appreciate you saying that. And let's see here. Super chat comes in from David Lee Barron, who says, "To the wonderful and beautiful Lynne Griffin, you did an amazing job in Black Christmas. What is your favorite movie?" I'm assuming he doesn't necessarily mean that you've been in, but what your favorite movie is of all time. Or you can talk about what, your favorite movies that you have been in as well. But the way the question's structured, I'm assuming he means just in general, what's your favorite movie of all time?
I will say one name is Guillermo del Toro. Watch anything by Guillermo del Toro. So Shape of Water is his most recent film.
Amazing.
But I just watched one of his very first films called The Devil's Backbone, which was brilliant. Pan's Labyrinth. As far as horror movies go, he's my king. He's the king of horror movies. And then beyond that, I'm a great Hitchcock fan, because we were talking about how psychological thrillers are more frightening than actual slasher films.
Right.
So definitely anything Hitchcock as well, I'm very fond of. As far as myself, I will plug myself just by saying I was able to be cast in the remake of Fahrenheit 451 with Michael Shannon and Michael B. Jordan. And I got to play the woman who was the keeper of literature, who kept all the books that were banned in her home. And eventually I got to be set on fire as I burnt all the books that were in when they piled them all up. But it was a great, great, fabulous scene. Michael Shannon and Michael B. Jordan were incredible to work with, an incredible director, and quite something to be able to watch myself. Obviously not really me,
right?
But right up to, I felt the singe on my eyelashes, believe me. But a stunt woman actually did the big burn. Right. But it was fabulous to actually, do a role in a film that you kind of go, like, the book is really important to me, and the meaning of the story, and the fact that they updated it to make it work for 21st century was very, very cool.
I haven't seen that movie yet, but it is something that I want to see because I remember when they were going to remake it, it was something that I wanted to see. Did it have a theatrical release?
No, it didn't, but it was played on HBO, and it comes up on television all the time now.
Okay.
It's frequently on television.
That's probably why
it never had a theatrical release.
Okay,
It
I'll
was
have to go
always
look for it.
for HBO screenings.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Andrew L. sends in a super chat and says, "What are you most looking forward to seeing in It's Me, Billy, Lynn?"
I'm looking to see, well, because Billy still is a very mysterious and enigmatic character.
Mhm.
And at the end of the 74 version of Black Christmas, the phone kept ringing. So he's clearly still around. And in 2020, if he's still around, could happen. I still am. I mean, not as Clare, but as Lynn.
That's right.
So I'm very curious to see how they will portray Billy this time and whether Billy has cleaned up his act at all in terms of his phone conversations.
Something tells
because
me he hasn't.
He was pretty blue. I will say it was really funny too, because when we were shooting that, we had no idea what was being said. Bob was just sort of riffing with us, and I was sort of imagining they were saying, "I'm going to come and take all your clothes off," or sort of really fairly simple stalker stuff, not as blue as it turned out to be.
It's funny you say that because when we hired the actors we hired, they're
Right.
in their, I think they're in their, they're early to mid 20s. So our three leads, I don't believe they had seen the original Black Christmas. So we, part of their homework, of course, was we recommended to watch the original Black Christmas because this is it's unofficial, of course, but we're kind of doing a tribute to that by making this unofficial sequel, short film. And they're like, okay. So they went and watched it. And then at one of our table reads about a month or so ago, virtually, obviously, because we're doing this all over Zoom because of COVID. And one of the actors was like, that was pretty intense. Like, this is because she was shocked at some of the words that were if you saw that in a modern film, it probably wouldn't have fazed them. But I think even they were smart enough to realize that, wow, this is 74. Like, this is pretty intense,
Yeah, we didn't usually call each other names like that back in 74. I mean, and we definitely weren't allowed to use the F word or anything like that.
Oh, yes.
And particularly, like, one of the things I think is fascinating about Black Christmas is where the character of Jess, played by Olivia Hussey, decides to actually say she's going to have an abortion, because that was completely taboo back in those days. So it's amazing how there's that feminist quality in Black Christmas, and how Jess was a very empowered young woman, and especially in 1974.
Right. And what was so great about it is that it was part of the subtext. It was part of it. It wasn't necessarily in your face, but it was there. It was there to be discovered. And what's so great too is that it's almost, again, this is 5 years before I was born, so maybe I'm a little off. You can help me out, but it almost is a bit of a role reversal in some ways, because it stereotypically, the woman would be more, I would assume, would be more wanting to have the child. And it would be the man that would be like, oh my God, hang on a sec, what's going on?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it was very different. Yes. Yeah.
And also interesting, now that I think of it, that, the fact that Jess was pregnant, which isn't really, like, as you say, it's very subtextually in the film,
Mhm.
but the fact that there's that mother instinct to protect herself to protect her own body at all costs. That's probably like, because a lot of women come up to me and say they really think Black Christmas is a feminist film. And I was quite surprised when they did, because I said, we all die. How can it, And one of the things that I liked about the 2019 remake was the fact that they were empowered, that the women were very empowered in that. And it was a nice, interesting twist on the idea of the story and the plot. But then I think of it, maybe that was what it was, that part of it is, I mean, don't they say the same is true about Ripley in Alien, that when they finally brought in one of the sequels, that they brought the child into it, the reason that she really fought so hard was because of the mothering instinct.
Yeah, I think it's all about balance. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think I know that with the 2019 film, some of the issues people had was it felt a little too on the nose, a little too preachy to some.
Right.
And I've seen the movie twice, and I can certainly understand that. There's a great, a reviewer said something like it's not a movie with a political message, it's a political message with a movie attached to it.
Oh, yeah.
And some people might feel that way, and I can understand that. I certainly I can understand that, and it doesn't have anything to do with Billy or the mythology, and it was a completely new kind of thing, and I think there was an expectation there that people had that sort of was like, well, wait a minute, this isn't what? Wait, hang on a sec here. I think actually it's probably on its own merits. I think, I've often said that the subtitle to the new Black Christmas that came out last year was Slay Girls, which was Slay.
Oh, that would be good.
And I always thought that maybe if they had just called it Slay Girls, the film would have been better received. And people would have naturally drawn their own, this is kind of like Black Christmas. But I think it would have maybe done better. Because there wasn't the expectation. Where's Billy? Where's the phone calls? Where's Agnes? What's going on?
And maybe if they said, rather than it was Ghostbusters 2, if they'd called it Ghost Babes.
No, I don't think that would have necessarily done well. I think that would have had the opposite effect. I think that would have had the opposite effect, because the subtitle Slay Girls is already there. So I think I'm okay to say that because it's already on the poster. But if I just introduced that, I think that might have rubbed people to, hey, you know what? Here's an idea. Here's an idea. But certainly, yeah, it's you're right, though. There is a level of that. And I think whenever you can weave that into the narrative, in a way that affects the audience on a subconscious level, where they're not quite, they're not quite aware of it, but they feel a certain way for the character, or they notice themselves having feelings about some bit of exposition that's happened or something that's going on, but it's not at the forefront. It's not the driving force of the story. I often think that that's sometimes the best way to approach those stories, which is what I love about Kubrick so much, is the layers that he instills, that there is a lot of subtext that does happen, and there's a lot of themes and a lot of messages, but it's not overpowering you necessarily. And I always appreciate that really, really well. And I think the original Black Christmas was one of those things that had that. Jess was definitely strong, and she definitely was, especially at that time, about to make a very important decision. She not only wants to have an abortion, but she doesn't want to marry Peter. She doesn't want to be with him. And like you said, I mean, that was pretty,
Yeah, that was pretty radical for the time.
Yeah. It fills out her character and makes you realize why she's then making the decision she does for the rest of the movie about things that are not necessarily related. You know what I mean? Is because it's part of her character and her makeup.
Right. And
already
she becomes heroic.
Right. Exactly. And she was pregnant, and what happened to the baby? I don't know. You got to watch It's Me, Baby.
Yeah. See, we don't really, there's maybe something that you want to think about with It's Me, Billy, that we go, what?
You will find out.
Because is the character, did you say it's Jess's granddaughter?
Yes. So, yes,
so
Sam,
obviously Jess had a baby.
Who had a baby?
Who had a baby.
Who had a baby. That's right. That's right. Yeah. When
cool. This is very cool.
It's very cool. When Bruce and I were trying to crack the code what to do with It's Me, Billy, and this idea that we thought was really cool. And, you know, again, like I told you on the phone, we love the idea that we're two independent filmmakers from Toronto, and it's that's a Toronto-based movie. You know, it's a Canadian movie. We're Canadian. We thought it was kind of fun that way too. But we needed to crack the code because we both agree that the ending to Black Christmas is brilliant. I mean, it doesn't need it's perfect. You know,
Right.
seeing you in the attic and just thinking that you're there today is,
The
you know, is
phone
great.
rings.
Right, exactly. And there's no music. I mean, the credits are just, you know,
Yep.
and it's fantastic. But we said, where's our in point? Like, hypothetically,
Right.
if we do this, what do we do? And then I sat there and I thought, oh my goodness, she's still pregnant. And there's no, I mean, what happened, you know? And we realized at that point, then that was our in point to then write a story, short story. Again, obviously we don't have a big, you know, feature idea, but although we do have ideas, but anyway, so that was our in point, you know, to kind of take it from there.
Right.
And then it's been,
and that's really interesting because it's actually not something at the time that I really clocked.
right.
And I don't think even people who watched the movie at that time, or maybe even now, clock
Right.
that at the end of it, Jess is still pregnant.
Right. Yeah.
So it was a really good key that you picked up on to take it from there.
Yeah. Because once you understand that and you recognize
Right.
that, then you can start to branch out from there. And okay, what
Well,
does this
and
mean?
you
You know?
think with Jess witnessing so much death, it probably changed her mind.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I won't say too much, but I'll just say exactly.
No. Let's keep that. Let's keep that for It's Me, Billy.
Right. Exactly. Now, how are you for time, Lynn? Are you okay to go a
I'm
little bit
fine.
longer, or you're good?
I'm absolutely fine.
Okay.
There's lots of stuff I could still talk about.
Hey, if there's anything
I mean,
you want.
first of all, have you ever seen the movie Curtains?
No, I have not.
Okay, Curtains, and it was re-released on DVD and Blu-ray about maybe 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. Anyway, it's 6 actresses up for the same part, and one of them will kill to get it, literally. And I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's one of the few films where I actually lived till the final reel.
Oh,
And it stars John Vernon, Samantha Eggar, Leslie Donaldson, and Ditchburn. I'm sure I'm going to forget Linda Thorson, Sandy Curry. Who am I forgetting?
yes.
Michael Wincott plays
There
a
it
small
is.
part in it. You should definitely watch it, and we'll talk again about that film because I've got
Okay.
lots of inside gossip and dope on that film.
Yes.
And because it was actually released very poorly and only was then circulating on a very poor bootleg VHS with 2 other horror films, and then it was picked up and beautifully remastered so that the print of it now is absolutely gorgeous and we all look wonderful in it. And it really, but it was an interesting film because we shot it and then the director pulled his name off it, Richard Chupka, and then we came back and did reshoots on it quite a long time afterwards, maybe 14 months later,
right.
to try and make it releasable the way they wanted it releasable, which was Richard Chupka was a really wonderful auteur, a young man and at that time in his filmmaking career, but had done some wonderful, wonderful work on this film. And the producer, Peter Simpson, I think wanted a little more sort of, fear and sex and blood.
Gotcha.
So we came back and we shot a few more scenes for it, and then it was re-released. And it's a movie I'm actually quite proud of now.
And so you should. I see it here on IMDb, Curtains 1983.
Right.
And the poster looks just exquisitely exciting. I love this. Behind every curtain, someone is watching. Something is watching.
Yeah, you see? Just like Billy.
Right.
Behind every door.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, it's the unseen fear that really features big in that film, because you really don't know what the what's going on? Like who is the
I
killer?
love that. I love I never get tired of it. When there's a theater of the mind kind of movie or a whodunit or something, or, you know, a combination of the both, psychological, you know, in nature, it's some of the best. It's just, I often say to people, because we all go to our own version of what is scary for us. And
Yeah,
and if you show us what we're supposed to think is scary, some of us might think it's scary, but some of us may not. And then you lose half your audience,
right.
but if you
And
maintain that
my
balance, it can be
scary
very
thing
effective.
is home invasion.
Ooh,
Like Prince of Tides, or uh, somebody like that. And I guess what Christmas is a bit like that. There's somebody in your house.
yes.
There's somebody that's gotten into your house, and
What
is that's the terrifying thing.
what did you think of the original When a Stranger Calls from 1979?
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's that same. Well, it's the same
Same
idea,
premise, yeah.
isn't it? Or that whatever the fear is. And it's also, that's very interesting, because I think a lot of us, and especially at the times we're living in now, that we are so isolated because of COVID-19, we're really isolated in our house. And some of that can get oppressive and scary, and because you're afraid to go out of your house because the fear is outside. But
Right.
then claustrophobia is a huge fear as well.
Yeah. I was just going to say there's a claustrophobic nature to it,
Yeah. Yeah.
incredible. Incredible. That's I got to see Curtains now. I'm excited to see this.
Yeah, and then we'll chat again
For
about
sure.
curtains, 'cause there's lots
Absolutely.
yeah.
Let me see here. Let me just make sure I go back and I didn't miss any the
Let
super
me just
chat.
ask if Steve DeRock is on, because
Steve
I just want to make a shout out to Steve DeRock, who's doing a film called The Rage. That it
Steve
was
DeRock?
Yeah, that's probably what he's like. If he's on a chat room, that's probably
Ah,
what he's. Anyway, he and I had come up with an idea that I had said that one of the things that I still had on my bucket list was to do another horror film where I played a little old lady,
right.
who is so sweet and serves you tea and scones and muffins and brings you pies, but she's really a serial killer.
I remember you saying this.
So
You
that's
could
Steve DeRock, and if he's on, I'll say hi, because he actually does watch your show.
Oh, fantastic. Well, shout out to Steve DeRock,
And
then,
The Rage.
and the rage. That is amazing. I remember you telling me about that idea on the phone the other day, and just instantly, I mean, I'm thinking you could play that role so well, you could win an Academy Award for it. I mean, that's how well I think you could play
Yeah,
that
me and
role.
Kathy Bates, right? Kathy Bates.
You and Kathy Bates in a road trip movie.
Wow, like the remake of Arsenic and Old Lace.
Right. It's like a Thelma and Louise, but it's you
There
and
you go.
Kathy Bates, serial killers on the run, being sweet older, and making
Okay,
pies and muffins and
come
poisoning
on,
stuff.
Dave.
And
Come on, Dave. You can write it.
all
It
right,
writes itself.
it does. It does. I think I'm good. That's next. That's next. After It's Me,
And
Billy.
it's so funny, because I kept wanting to say to you, I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave. I'm sorry, Dave.
Hello,
I can't
Dave.
open the pod bay door.
That's I get that a lot, actually.
Okay,
Hello,
I'm sure
Dave.
you did. Anyway, I
That's
just
right.
wanted to do that for fun.
I can't do that, Dave. I'm sorry, Dave.
Sorry, Dave.
What was his? He was the voice of Hal. He was Canadian too, I believe.
Yes, and I actually worked with him, and now you're going to test my brain
Oh,
to say who is the name of the actor who played Hal. And I
oh,
actually did a production of King Lear with him at Stratford, and now his name is escaping me,
uh,
which shows you how senior I can be. But I will remember. Sean, what's the name of the actor who plays Hal? Sean? Hal. In Douglas Rain.
right. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's good to have one mind working in our home at the present time. At least one brain is functioning.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Listen, I'm only 41, but there are days where I walk into the kitchen and it's happening more and more now. And I think, what the hell was I walking in here to do?
Yeah. What is that?
I have
You
no
walk
idea.
into the kitchen, you go, what was I gonna? What? Oh,
there's
then you have to walk back to
right.
where you were
Yep.
and then go, okay, I was gonna make lunch.
That's it.
Duh.
Oh yeah, I'm hungry.
That is a senior
Oh,
moment.
that's right. There are times where I'll be sitting on my couch and I'll be surfing something on my phone, and obviously something has reminded me of something, and then I want to go to the computer to have a bigger screen, and from the couch to the computer, I've completely
Yep,
forgotten
yep.
what I'm doing.
Gone. Yeah,
Oh,
that's right. That's why there was the invention of the list.
right. See, my girlfriend is all about lists, and I'm not. I gotta take after her.
Because the thing too about lists is there's something so rewarding about checking off something that you put
Yes.
on the list, particularly if you make a really big, like, life affirming, goal searching list.
Right.
Which is very good to do during COVID, by the way. What do you want to when this is all past and
Right.
over and we're back to, I don't know, whatever we're going to
I
be
mean,
back to, or whether we're moving forward into a different realm altogether.
who
At
knows?
least you'll know what you wanted to accomplish.
That's right. I can imagine, maybe not now because it's not so dire, but I can imagine that if anybody had a list, say back in March or April, and on that list was Royale toilet paper, and you had the opportunity to check that off, the euphoria that somebody would have felt by checking off toilet paper would have been outstanding. I mean,
Yeah,
just unbelievable.
it's true.
Amazing.
But on that,
Yes.
'cause I am the queen of segues. I think I told you this before. I
You
love
did.
to do segues. In March, my husband had written a play called The Slaughter Brothers Dime Circus, a play with music. And we were 10 days from opening when the lockdown happened.
Right.
So, very, very disappointing, and a great play. He had written a part for me in it. He had written a brilliant part for himself. He'd written all the music. We were that close. Very visual play. But the lockdown happened, and the doors to the theater were shut, as the doors of the theaters were shut all over the place. So, Sean Sullivan, who is in Wayne's World and Back to the Future 3 and other films that I can promote him anyway, wrote the radio version of this play, which we have now recorded, and we are in the process of editing and putting in the special effects and Foley on the Slaughter Brothers Dime Circus, and it will be available probably at the very latest mid-September, early September, mid-September. So I just
Okay.
put out that little plug for that,
For
to look out
sure.
for The Slaughter Brothers Dime Circus by Sean Sullivan.
Amazing. Yes, absolutely. Plug away. I remember when you were talking about it a couple days ago, and it sounded really fun. And
Well, and when we were talking about theater of the mind,
right,
because basically it's about a parasitical, a parasitical infection and apocalypse.
right. And what a coincidence. I mean, really. Where will people be able to find it once it is out?
Well,
Is this
yeah, that's
iTunes,
what we're
Spotify,
trying to
YouTube?
figure out now. We were given a grant. I mean, the play version, we were given a very substantial grant from the Canada Council, and then the Canada Council stepped up again and gave us another grant for doing the radio version. So we're hoping we may be able to eventually have it broadcast. Who knows where? Like, I mean, there is sort of a kind of rumor that maybe CBC could pick it up, but we don't know that yet.
Okay.
And if the worst comes to worst, we'll try and find a way to make it available either through some kind of YouTube, or let it be available to people on podcasts or whatever they want to do. We'll somehow find a way to get it into people's homes. And in a way, it's terrific. And it really, well, because it's interesting. In the play version, my character didn't speak.
Right.
So when we then decided to do it as a radio play, we had to invent, and we kind of came up with this, because I'm playing a clown, a kind of Gramalot that actually I speak by intention, if not really discernible words. So all of a sudden my part got a lot better.
Right.
But we will see how we're able to promote it. But we like the idea that many more people will be able to take part in enjoying it, just because it will be in a radio version as opposed from in a theater in Toronto, where we may have wanted to move it to other towns, but it
Right.
would have been a very limited run in a theater in Toronto, and
Well,
now it's going to be global.
and what's so great about that is, I don't know if I would assume you would, if the opportunity comes back. What's so great is that you have this opportunity to have it released in a radio play form,
Right.
which then once you get back to doing the stage, people will see it advertised and see it and make the
Exactly.
that was such a good radio play.
Yeah,
I gotta go see that stage play
it's
now.
a great promotion
Yes.
for the actual being able to see, because we had so many wonderful creative people working on it with so many brilliant visual effects,
Right.
that I think once you hear the story, you'll really want to see what we did with it visually
Right.
as well.
Right. Exactly. No, 100%. Real Reveal sends in a super chat and says, Lynn, you seem like a kind soul, down to earth person. Thank you for being on today. You are awesome. How was it working with Meryl Streep, and for what movie? I will need to check it out.
Okay, the movie is called First Do No Harm. And it's sort of, I don't know if you recall, there was a movie, Lorenzo's Oil. It's about a child who has a very impossible illness that's hard to cure. And so Meryl Streep is the mother of that child. And basically, it's the story of her quest to try and find a solution and a cure for his illness. Yeah, it's a lovely film, and she was lovely in it. Well, we shot some of it at I think in the Princess Margaret Hospital. And the wonderful thing was there were so many people who were there
Right.
at the time, and people were coming up to her and asking her to sign their cast, like, because they would have
Wow.
broken arms or broken legs.
Right.
And she was so magnanimous and would sign everything, was signing autographs all over the place. She's the real deal. She's the real deal.
Right.
And I'm just so in love with her work. I just recently watched Sophie's Choice again, and it's just like incredible.
Yes.
Just incredible, the
Yeah.
body of her work.
Oh,
So
she's
she's a favorite of mine.
she makes everything better. You know what I mean? Every
Yeah,
script, even a subpar script, it suddenly is instantly
right.
better when she's, involved.
That
You
sort
know.
of sounded like a baking commercial. Meryl Streep, she makes everything better.
Meryl Streep, she makes everything better.
Meryl Streep, she'll make everything better.
Or that too. That's right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Bruce sends in a final super chat here. Thanks, buddy. He says, Lynn, you're awesome. You are inspiring, and you remind me of the fun in collaboration and creating in creative spaces.
Oh, brilliant. That's my favorite word when it comes to this business, is it's all about collaboration,
not
not
agree
one
more.
person's idea, but the ideas of many, the ideas of sharing. That's why I love doing what I do,
Yeah.
because it is a collaborative art form.
It is, and whether you're making short films, feature films, television shows, radio plays, stage plays, whatever it is, it's a team effort. There's a lot
And
of
it's really great if you're in a situation with someone who is the creator of the piece, who lets everyone have input
right.
rather than trying to kind of micromanage it. It's
Right.
always so great when, you actually are able to say, let me do another take and let me try this time. And they're like willing to let you do that, because they're willing to see what you bring to a role that's very, special to you,
Right.
and that's your imprint on a role.
Right. Exactly. Gary Rangel says, how long did Lynn have to stay with that plastic bag over her head? Or was that a dummy under that bag? No, that was you,
No.
right, Lynn?
That was me, and it was days and days. I mean, I think it was at least 3 days. I
Right.
mean, not without breaks, obviously. But yeah, it was, I think we took about 3 days to actually film all of what they wanted from different angles. And but when the plastic bag was on my face, I think I can hold my breath for about maybe 90 seconds up to maybe 2 minutes. I think when I would swim, I could actually hold my breath, like, because I could do a full lap on one breath. So that maybe could be 2.5 minutes. Pretty
Right.
good. But the hardest part was keeping your eyes open. Breathing, you can kind of like, if you ever get hiccups,
Mm-hmm.
that you'll hold your breath to
Yep.
try and get rid of hiccups. So I can hold my breath for a long time. Keeping your eyes open and still is a little hard, especially when you're filming and there's so much stuff going on around you. Although in the attic scene, they tried to keep it down to really minimal amount of people in the room and minimal distraction.
Right. Right. Edwin Sordo sends in no, not a super chat. Sorry, just a regular question. Says, "Hey, Lynn, what are some things you do in your spare time?"
Oh, I'm a visual artist. Ha ha ha. I am a visual artist as well, which is something that's relatively new. I started doing sort of assemblage and collage on raw wood with um, images. I was particularly inspired by the work of Frida Kahlo.
Mm.
And so I started using some of her images with found objects. Actually, if Sean's around, he can pull one down off the wall and show you that too. And I also, during this time that we've been doing the self-isolation, which I call artists in residence,
Right.
um, that that I've been doing a lot of drawing. And so I've really and it was partly because of Slaughter Brothers as well, that I started drawing images of all the different circus characters that are in the circus or have been fired from this particular circus. So there's, Belmont Murphy with the toasted face. There's the cantilevered cantaloupe. There's the the gizmo with her gizmo girl with her gyrating gizmos. And so I've been doing all these drawings, and it started out drawing just the characters that we play in the play, and then it expanded to all the different characters. And it's been very fascinating because I was always told as a child that I couldn't really draw, but I think I have sort of a cartoonist nature. So even though I say like a lot of what I do might be considered either cartoon or folk art, I'm also, I must say, I am the queen of knitting and crocheting.
Hey,
Every one of my friends has a crocheted blanket by Lynn, and I even sell them. I have a Facebook page that's called Lynne Griffin's Fine Handicraft, and you can, if you really wanted, you could buy something knitted by me.
what's the Facebook again?
Lynne Griffin's Fine Handicraft.
Let me just go to that. I'm going to put that link in the chat room for people.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Lynn.
Now I'll get lots of orders to knit blankets.
Griffin's, what is it again? Lynne Griffin's
Fine Handicrafts.
Fine Handicrafts. There, I think that's going to come up. 1 second here. There it is. Lynne Griffin Fine Handicraft. I'm going to take that.
There it is.
All right. And then I'm just going to take
So I am a very, I love working with my hands. I love working with color. I really love visual arts, and I actually managed to get a couple of my pieces into galleries as well, which was very, very cool and very inspiring. And once you have somebody that recognizes your work, it really gives you the sort of green light to go ahead and really experiment with what you do. Hey, Sean, he's cutting something up in the kitchen. Hey, Sean, could you bring down one of my pieces from the stairway?
Oh.
One of your favorites, if you like, whatever's close by. Just to give some kind of impression of what it is that I do.
I think that's great.
I think he's making dinner.
Is he making dinner?
I bet he's making a casserole.
I can smell
He's a
it.
very
It
good
sounds
cook.
good. It's making me hungry.
Making soup.
I wish that this was Smellorama. So there's a Frida Kahlo image,
Right.
and as you can see, she was impaled by a very large piece of a streetcar as a young woman, which caused her to be in bedridden for so long.
Right.
Which is when she became. So anyway, that's one.
That's
and
cool.
Here's
More
Sean.
surreal.
Here's my more surreal kind of thing.
Oh.
Here's where I get kind of wacky.
I like that.
Yeah.
Wait, is that a black balloon?
It's a black balloon.
Ooh, I love
It's
it.
hands holding a brain.
Isn't that cool?
Very
and then
cool.
the hands go up, and there's a black balloon.
Oh, I really like that. Now, whose hand is that?
Who knows? Somebody
Oh,
from a
okay.
magazine.
I thought maybe it was
Not
your
mine.
hand. Or
Yeah, because this is all collaged work.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's on a piece, obviously, of plywood, so you can hang it on your wall,
Right.
and yeah, even do
And
special.
stare into the void.
And I even do special orders of these kinds of things. You can take it back.
Stare into
Sean.
the void. I love it.
So, I mean, hey, self-create. That's what I always say. I
Right.
mean, we have a production company that we've had for years called Baby Monster Productions. And, we've toured Sean's solo play, Baby Red Boots, all over the place, and
Yeah.
in New York and in the Eastern Europe tour that we did of Czech Republic and Warsaw and all kinds of places. So I think it's really important to, and self-create as much as you can as an actor, and not just sit and wait for the phone to ring.
I
Yeah.
could not agree more.
Yeah.
I think whatever it is, is always to be, keeping as best as you can the creative juices flowing,
Yeah.
and sometimes out of those what appear to be, innocuous kind of just sort of things that you're doing for no reason, sometimes amazing ideas come from that, or you end up doing something that it takes off. And you're like,
Yeah.
geez, I was just having fun, but now it's like,
That's
it's become this
exactly
thing.
how it happened with me. I took a collage course in Los Angeles when I was there that was called The Monster Within.
Mm,
And one of the projects that we did was we took a box that actually had a lid that opened. And on the outside of the box, you collaged how you thought people saw you. And on the inside of the box, how you perceive yourself.
ooh, I like that.
It's a really cool thing to do. And I mean, collage is great because basically it's just, ripping up old magazines, finding old magazines with inspiring images that you can then reuse and recreate to express yourself. It's like a very inexpensive way of doing art. You don't have to buy paint. You don't have to buy canvases or brushes or anything like that. You literally just like recycle, even the flyers that come through your mailbox. And anything is usable. And, everybody always has an old cardboard box that they want to throw
Right.
out, or, figure out, maybe I'll send a present for Christmas somewhere. But it's been in my basement since January. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, exactly. The more dust, the better.
That's right. Is there a piece that you've done that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I have one that's fairly recent, Sean. The one that's 3D.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I started working can you get the 3D one with the
The 3D which?
up on the stairwell? The one with the ladder that's 3D. And also, because this is a piece of wood that I found abandoned somewhere, I kept some of the part of it that was still sort of on it and broken. The more broken and the more worn out it is.
Right.
It sees it sideways too, so you see.
Yeah. So I don't know how much of it you can see, but if you
that's cool.
turn it,
Yeah.
maybe you can see how
I can see it.
3D.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Again, and again, even if you don't have a lot of magazines hanging around, you can just go online and find images that you really like and print them. And this one is all black and white. I haven't even printed anything in color.
Right.
But you can do it that way too. So it's a really affordable way to express yourself with art.
Do you?
And fun. I mean, I actually try to teach some people how to do it. The other thing I do is called altered books, which is basically the same thing. It's taking an old book and just redoing the whole book inside. So, I mean, I did one. I think the book I used was an old version of Pocahontas.
Right.
But I actually, then you paint the pages and you decide if you want a theme to it.
Right.
I did a theme of all things that were seaworthy. So they were seaworthy mermaids and all kinds of special things. So, whatever piques your interest is a really good way. And it's a good way to express yourself.
For sure. Absolutely. 100%. Is on your Facebook page, do you now, I would imagine that you yourself, as the artist, you probably have, meaning, even if you don't let that known to other people. You have certain meaning for you as the artist, as you're creating. That's your inspiration. Do you let others know what the meaning is behind each piece, or do you allow them to fill in their own meanings as they see fit?
I think both is true. I usually try and give them a name. I try and name them, and they can be, rather strange, obscure names. I just did one for a friend of mine, and I just called it "We'll Take Manhattan." Um, and she went, "Wow, I really wish I would love to go and work in New York." And I went, "Well, no, it's just the idea of seizing an opportunity is,
Right.
I guess, what it is." But from the Leonard Cohen lyric.
Yes.
So, but I love to hear what people's impressions are and what they get out of it. I think all artists love that.
Yeah.
To hear that someone actually and may get a meaning or out of it that you've never even thought of yourself is really very, very interesting. I find that true of film as well, when people have such different perceptions of how they take
I agree.
something that they watch or a book that they read. I'm actually a very avid reader too, so so you see, the isolation hasn't been all that bad for me because I
That's
have
good.
a lot of things that I like to sit at home and do anyway.
Right.
I like to cook a lot. I cook all kinds of things. I am an expert and, in fact, award-winning pie maker.
Oh, a pie maker.
I make pies, and I've actually, at one point, I won an award for one of my apple pies that I entered into a contest.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. This is,
Yeah.
we have an award-winning pie maker on the show today, folks. Do you realize?
And, it's peach season. So the peach pie at the moment, I did sour cherry while the sour cherries were in, and now the peach pie. But my award-winning pie is my apple pie.
Apple pie. Apple pie is good. Apple pie, pumpkin pie is really good. Ooh.
Pumpkin pie is pretty easy.
Yes.
I like making mixed berries. Like I like using apricots, blueberries, raspberries, all kinds of different things in one pie. And I don't do a full crust. I do it as a galette, which means you just do the crust and wrap it over the top,
Right.
and then sprinkle sugar on it. That gets all crispy and yummy when you bake it.
God, Lynn, stop. I
I
haven't had
know.
lunch
Well,
yet.
you're in
This is
Toronto,
amazing.
a pie could be on your doorstep before you know it.
There may be an order being filled after this show of 30 pies. I'm just saying.
And 8,000
8,000
ornaments.
pies.
I'm gonna
Indiegogo,
be pretty
8,000. Lynne Griffin pie is
Oh my
part
God,
of the campaign
I'm
now.
gonna be busy this fall. It's good because there's no work, right?
Right,
I gotta
that's
find
it.
something to do.
That's it. Matthew Hadsamelia says, forgive me if this was asked beforehand, but what was your favorite thing about working with Bob Clark? And what are your thoughts on your face being on the... okay. Let me finish the question first.
We want him to watch the show.
I'll finish the question first. And what are your thoughts on your face being on the Halloween poster? So,
Black Christmas poster, not the Halloween.
No. He is actually talking about the Halloween poster, and I'll explain that.
Okay.
Answer the first part of the question, and then I'll get to the second part.
Well, I think if you watch the show too, you'll know that I did say how much I loved working with Bob Clark.
You did.
And how he created a sort of party atmosphere, Christmas party atmosphere for the whole filming, even though, some of the things that we were doing were kind of horrific. He was a lovely person to work with. And he was in the attic with me the whole time, and basically like holding my hand and rocking the chair the whole time to make me feel comfortable, even though.
Wait, Lynn, oh, there you go. Wait, it's a bit of a hiccup there. Hang on. Hang on 1 second, Lynn. You're breaking up a little bit.
Over my head. What?
Oh, wait, I can hear you. Oh, there you are. You're back.
Saying my internet. Okay, there we go.
You're back.
I was unstable on my internet for a while.
That's Zoom. Zoom's unstable. Exactly. Sorry, you are back. Continue.
So there was a second part to the question that I was telling about Bob Clark, and then there was a second part.
Yes. So this is, I don't know if I'm the first to bring this up, but I brought it up in jest on my channel about a year and a half or so ago, and it did sort of catch on. I did see some other channels sort of picking it up and maybe saying that there's some truth to it. However, when you the artist who created the original Halloween poster, which is that one right there, right?
Oh yes, okay,
That one
yeah,
right there.
yeah.
The fist of the hand in the knuckles and vein of the fist. There was one day, and I may not be the only person who's noticed this, but I haven't seen anybody else pick it up. I'm not claiming that I am the first. There's probably others out there too. But there was one day I was looking at the poster because I have it hanging on my wall outside of my studio here, and it's a big gigantic poster. And I was walking by it and I was looking at it, and it must have been around the time I just finished watching Black Christmas or something. And I was looking at the fist and I'm going, from a certain point of view, it kind of looks like Clare with her mouth open, sitting back. And of course there's that, John Carpenter, it's right. Yeah. So people kind of tend to fill in the blanks and fill in their own gaps when there really isn't anything there.
It's like the Beatles' White Album.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. Okay. And the artist, his name escapes me, but the artist has said many times that no, it's just a coincidence. Like I wasn't thinking of making it a face or, because some people have said that they see a face in the fist. That's what it is. That was known.
Right.
That people said they see a face in the fist.
I have heard this before.
Right. And then I took it a step further.
Idea floated.
I took it a step further and said, it kind of looks like Clare sitting back in the chair. And I did a comparison. I did a dissolve, a side by side. And this video was like a year and a half ago. I was sort of being, sarcastic. I wasn't actually being serious. But if you look sort of closely, let me see. I got there's
two here. Two right things. There.
There we go.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. It does look like my face wrapped in plastic. It does.
Little bit. There you go, folks. See? In the fist there. In the fist.
Yeah, if you don't see it, I sure saw it. I can see it absolutely.
Yeah, and
wow,
so,
another homage.
Another homage. Well, but of course, it is sheerly coincidental.
Yeah, but now I want to do a drawing of that, and I'll make it really clear that it's Clare's face in the drawing that I do of that fist.
That would be cool. In my video on my channel, I don't know what it's called now, I forget, but I have your face in the bag. And
so you kind of superimpose?
I went back and forth, kind of in fade in, fade out, and it does match. It does match, but it's a coincidence. It's a coincidence.
Send that to me.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link because it's just and I put some eerie music underneath. It's only about a 30-second thing, and there's eerie music underneath it. Like, is there some sort of conspiracy?
I love it. Anything that you send me that's cool like that, I will put on my fan page, and because these things are incredible, and also that I will promote the hell out of It's Me, Billy.
Yeah, and I could not thank you. Bruce and I both thank you incredibly for that, and we are really excited about it. We're closing to the end of the campaign, but the actors are so talented, and we think the story is really cool, and it keeps and this isn't a spoiler because we've talked about this, but it's being presented in the same way as the original. It's keeping the ambiguity there. We're pushing the narrative forward because we have to sort of, there's some exposition. There's things we got to catch people up on. But we want to preserve the integrity of what, of that theater of the mind and that eeriness and mood and because that's what most people love about that movie. So we don't want to remove it from this little tribute. So we're really excited about it. Okay, I have to skedaddle in a few moments, but let's take a couple more.
We've been talking for a long time.
We have. It's awesome.
I think we've covered pretty much everything.
I think so. Is there anything else that you feel you want to plug or you want to mention and get out there? I know you were talking about, of course, the radio play.
Well, I think everybody should definitely watch season 2 of The Umbrella Academy because my husband, Sean Sullivan, plays the older version of number 5. And we've binge watched the whole second season. and I think it's really terrific. It really, really, it's all kind of surrounding the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy and the Dallas moment on the grassy knoll.
Right.
So it's a fascinating version. It was great season 1, but season 2 I think is even better, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that there's a season 3.
Amazing. I have to admit, I was only it was you when we talked the other day that said Umbrella Academy. I looked it up. I had no idea about this show. So I still have to sit down and watch this show. Yeah. I still have to sit down and check it out, because I'm a Netflix watcher, but I'm not one of those like hardcore Netflix watchers. So shows will pop on there and you know, I'll be like, oh my God, I've never heard of that, you know? So I definitely need to check that out.
But if you like, you know, certainly sci-fi, if you like people disappearing into vortexes, and, you know, because all the characters have a special power. All the different characters on the Umbrella Academy have a special power that they use to hopefully save the world.
Yes, that's what I say. I watched a trailer for it and I thought this looks really cool. And the reviews have been fantastic.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So-
we're very excited about how it's being received.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll take a couple more here. Let me see here. Let's see if we get somebody I haven't seen. Freshy Thrashy, I like that screen name. Says, this has been a great show. Thanks, Freshy Thrashy. Hey, Lynn, what
You
are
have
your...
to say that fast 3 times.
That's right.
That's a tongue twister if there ever
It
was.
is. Freshy Thrashy, Freshy Thrashy, Freshy Thrashy, Freshy
Oh,
Thrashy.
you're good. That's why you're a voiceover actor.
I think I should start a career in it.
Yeah, don't give up your day job, Dave. Really,
that's
you
right.
should keep doing your day job.
That's right. Hey, Lynn, what are your favorite albums? Oh, this is a cool question. What are your favorite albums of all time?
Wow.
I like that question.
Wow. Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water, for sure. The first album I ever bought was the Beach Boys' Good Vibrations. Now I'm really, really dating myself.
Hey,
Because when you say album, you're talking about vinyl. So you're not talking about something recent. I would
think
say.
that is
Like an
true.
album, like wouldn't you say, what's your favorite CD?
Yeah, I think
What's your favorite 8-track, Lynn?
I think the word album, though, has sort of transcended and sort
Well,
of...
mine are all old anyway. A Question of Balance by the Moody Blues.
Joni.
Oh, yeah. Anything Joni Mitchell, particularly Ladies of the Canyon and Blue, pretty much every Joni Mitchell. I kind of lost a little interest when it got to some of the more crazy jazzy stuff, but a huge Joni Mitchell fan. I will say, too, when I was young, I went to a club that was called, what was it called in Yorkville? Anyway, I saw Don McLean for the first time, I don't know, publicly anyway, in Toronto, played American Pie. And I saw it live.
Wow.
And that was pretty impressive.
That...
It was where Gordon Lightfoot played a lot too. I'm a big Gordon Lightfoot fan.
Yes.
But I mean, seeing someone live, and we actually saw the Bare Naked Ladies play live in LA at one point before at the Troubadour before they were really famous. So I like Bare Naked Ladies.
That
too.
reminds me of when my mother said to me that she saw Roy Orbison in Toronto before he was Roy Orbison.
Oh, cool.
And my dad was both my parents have passed. They passed for different reasons, but they both have passed. And my dad was for many years, well, for his whole life, he was a journalist here in Canada. And I have photos of him on the wall behind me here. There's a photo over here with him and the Beatles. And it's when the Beatles, it's when they came to Toronto in 64 or 5. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you very much. And they stayed at the King Edward. And my dad at that time would have been, he was born in 42, so he would have been 20, I guess, 4 or whatever. And he was with the Star at the time.
Right.
And my dad was one of the, I got a lot from my dad. But of course, at this time in the 60s, as you know, I mean, you could do certain things you can't do today. You can throw on a hard hat and a pair of keys, and if you look confident enough, you can get in places and people aren't going to question you. That's long gone. I mean, you can't do that now, right?
Yeah,
so my
You're going
dad,
through the metal detector now.
exactly. My dad was able to make his way up to their hotel room, knock on the door. I think it was either Ringo or one of them opened the door, and my dad was pretending to be somebody other than a journalist to try and get the story. And then I forget, he's written about this and the story, and something happened and he wasn't able to get in, or he talked to them for a moment, but they were a little suspicious, something or whatever it was. My dad then he left, or he was either escorted out or something. And then he made his way to the back of the King Edward where they were leaving. Because they weren't going to come out the front where everybody was. Obviously. They were going to go out the back. So the picture on the wall, I wish I could bring it up actually, but the picture on, hang on, you know what? Let me get it.
Yeah, you're like me. We're taking all the pictures down from our walls to show.
That's it.
Sean's here. Sean wants to see it.
Okay, great. Let me just bring up so I can see. Oh, you're over there. I can't. Hang on, let's see. I just want to make sure I'm okay. So this is.
Wow.
Oh my God.
This is my father right here pointing the pen like this.
Wow. Yeah. And there's Paul and Ringo.
That's John
Paul
Lennon.
and John.
Paul and John.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And
that's pretty impressive.
What's so cool is that my dad is going like this, and they're kind of like, oh, because my dad said, like, I'm like, what's going on there? Like, what's the exchange? And he said, well, like the cat was out of the bag. Like they realized, oh, he's a reporter. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh, it's you. And then he's, my dad was like, that's right. Hey, it's me. I told you, something like that. Right. But that's, yeah. And then, so,
wow.
Really, really cool indeed. This isn't the original. It's a copy, but, and then I have my dad with, Robert Kennedy on the wall back here too.
Okay. Now you're in Sean's wheelhouse.
All right,
well, you're in Sean's wheelhouse. Period.
Okay.
Yeah,
Both the Beatles and look at his room.
Elm Street.
Yeah.
So this is now it's the back of my father's head, but it is him. This would have been on the campaign. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I don't know how long before he was assassinated, but this is Robert Kennedy here, obviously, and the back of my dad's head. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of my first hero was Robert Kennedy.
Yeah. And just showing the viewers out there. That's the back of my dad's head. And
what
Robert
was your
Kennedy.
dad's name?
Earl McRae.
Earl McRae. It is familiar.
Yeah.
Wow.
God, our dads, because my dad winning Canadian Photographer of the Year, his name was James Joseph Griffin. And, when they pass away, I mean, he passed away the year after that. So, he's been gone a long time, and both my parents are passed away as well.
Right.
So I wonder what they would think of what we're doing right now.
I know, it's so funny. Cool. Yeah, my dad, he worked for the Star and then the Canadian Magazine in the 70s, which of course is long defunct. And then he worked CBC and through the 80s. He moved to Ottawa in 86 and worked for the Ottawa Citizen and then the Ottawa Sun. And that's where he was when he died. He unfortunately he had a heart attack in the Sun newsroom and passed away. Yeah, he was only 69. So if he were alive today, it was
67 when he passed.
Yeah,
so really early.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
We share a very common bond then.
Yes. For sure. And my mother was 67. She passed of cancer the same year my father passed.
Oh my God.
Now, they were not together. They had been divorced for about 25 years, but they remained close because they had 4 kids together. And so that was a tough year. That was a tough year to say the least. But it's so, yeah. So, I mean, I got that. I got my dad and my mother with Liberace, actually, over here on a boat. I got to show you this. This is hilarious.
I think I have a picture of myself with Harry Belafonte somewhere. Really? Yeah.
I wish this was me in these photos. It would be much more cooler, but nonetheless, it's still kind of cool.
Well, you can always Photoshop now.
That's true. That's true. So this is my dad and my mom with Liberace.
Oh, how cool is that?
There we go.
Wow. Wow, your mom even looks familiar too. Your mom looks like someone I know. She looks like Severin Thompson.
That's funny. Her name was Patricia.
Wow.
And it says here, Liberace with his autograph, and it says, to my pal Earl, 1977. So 1977. Wow.
That's cool.
It's definitely cool. And growing up with, you know, in a media family, you know, so to speak, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from my dad, how he handled things, because he was a kind of writer that could piss you off one day, but then make you cry the very next day in a column. You know what I mean?
It's funny because Sean's stepdad was also a journalist and also wrote a column in the San Diego Union for years. And he would oftentimes use some of the things that his many children, many stepchildren would do as fodder for his. So Sean always
very embarrassing.
Very embarrassing.
Oh yes, yeah, for sure.
If you did something stupid in junior high, it was in the paper 2 days later.
I know the feeling. That's so funny. That's it.
Oh God. And my dad, because he was a photographer, there was no private moments in the household.
Right.
So, you know, dating back, although, you know, those photos I don't share, but he took pictures of me in the bathtub, like on the toilet, you know, and even, you know, there were things that, and, you know, because he passed away when I was younger, my mom kept unbelievable albums of photography, so much photography.
Right.
But a lot of pictures of us, which when I started to date, she liked to bring out the albums to, you know, my very newly minted boyfriends and show them some of these pictures.
It's almost like a parent 101 thing. It's like a prerequisite. You know,
never shot a picture of me on a bearskin rug, but shot a lot of bear pictures. Yeah.
Show the most embarrassing pictures to the
and show them to the prospective boyfriends.
That's
or
right.
You know, hopefully
scare them away.
Scare them away.
Yeah, that's right. Gauge their reactions and hopefully scare them away. I think that's probably what it is.
Look at how cute she was. In fact, for years on my business card, I used one of the pictures that my dad took of me when I was 3 years old. And it was on my business card for years.
That's so cute. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a great thing. It's yeah. I forget how we got onto that. What was I?
I don't know, but it was very cool.
Yeah, I forget now why I busted out the family photos. I
know. Man,
I don't know what I was doing
out
there.
the albums.
Bringing out the albums. Here you go.
Doomsday.
That's right. That's right. Well, listen, Lynn, I really, really appreciate your time and your husband's time as well. Sean's been in and out of there too. Really appreciate.
Sean's been very helpful.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it. You're amazing. This has been a lot of fun. Would love to get you back on in the future, of course. I think this has just been great. And again, thank you so much for your contribution.
Yes, I will remember to send you the picture of the ornament.
Yes.
And then we will figure out a way to get you some ornaments.
Yes.
And I love the fact that you're in Toronto, so you're not that far away.
I am. No, that's great. So that makes shipping and receiving very easy.
Very easy.
Especially during this time, you know, because
Yeah,
absolutely. And I want to thank, of course, everybody in the chat room who asked questions. Of course, there were a lot of people asking questions, and we like to be thorough with our answers. So if we didn't get to your questions, remember, it's nothing personal. I will have Lynn on again in the future, of course, for you guys to talk with her. Thank you to my moderators, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, Darren Sands, and Jason Nike for doing what you guys do. I will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for episode 94 of McRae Live. What am I talking about? I have no idea. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out later, I think, is what I'll probably do. But again, Lynn, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. And stick around, of course. We'll have our own little goodbye here in a second.
My pleasure, Dave. And thanks to everybody that's watching.
All right, folks. I will see you tomorrow. In the meantime, let me try that again. In the meantime and in between time, cheers.